Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope you all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talking, they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna the show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby.
What up, BSers?
What's up, guys?
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, all the above. Got to make sure I'm inclusive and include everybody in that.
Happy Orange Day to Drew.
That's right.
Hey, I tuned it down a little bit today.
You did.
It's pumpkin day for Drew every day at his house.
Hey, it's a good color. I still like it.
It's Orioles. I like it. I love it. How you guys feeling out there in Birdland, Ravens flock? You guys feeling a little less stressed than you have in most games, at least over the last couple of months with the Ravens? It's been a while, Scott. I was talking to Ryan about this after this game. That was like the lowest stressed game that we've had since last season, and really last season it was like every game felt that way.
We were spoiled last season. Let's be real, right? We were spoiled. Marshall Yanda shirred up the line. You had a lot more, faith in what Greg Roman was doing that nobody had seen it before, and
right.
He, it was just surprising everybody. There was a lot of things that were different, but yes, I agree 1,000%. This was the game that, like, we're sitting there watching the game. Drew, I think you were the one that commented and brought up, and like, we're not having heart attacks.
We were not chatting as much as we have been the last couple weeks.
It's absolutely true.
Far better.
None of us were on the edge of our seats. None of us had anxiety over this game. Like, I didn't even, last week talking about the game, I didn't even want to throw the word trap out there because I was just that confident that we were going to go in there, handle business. Hopefully, like I told you last week, keep everybody safe, keep everybody healthy, not put anybody out there that didn't necessarily need to be out there. I think the Ravens did a good job of that, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But we got 2 weeks left in the year. The Ravens still sitting outside of the playoffs looking in right now. Can the Ravens sneak in? Can they get the help that they need? They got a few different ways that they can still get into the playoffs with 2 games to go. I'm gonna be honest with you. It doesn't look great for the Ravens. We're going to need help. We're going to need the Steelers' help of all teams.
Yeah.
I hate rooting for the Steelers. You'll never catch me rooting for the Steelers, but you might catch me rooting for the Steelers for this one because I just don't see it coming any other way.
There's a lot of different scenarios, but the big thing, we're going to talk about this more, but the big thing to sum it up, KZ, our buddy KZ Kenzalis, I thought summed it up really well. Ravens need to handle business, and we need one of 3 teams to lose at least 1 game.
Right.
It's not that difficult.
First work of order is handling your own business, right?
Exactly.
Controlling what you can control, and that's what the Ravens got to do. Everything else, I just don't want to see it remember, was it last year or the year before where the Steelers were standing out on the field and they got their hearts ripped out from us because we ended up winning the game. They couldn't go to the playoffs or whatever. Yeah. I don't want to see that in reverse for us. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Not a whole lot going on with the Terps, so we're not doing a shell and tell segment this week, but in the rundown, we got Charlie Woods, and the college football BCS selection in this week's rundown. Some questionable decisions with who's in this 4-team BCS championship series.
Some interesting news coming out today about voting. Yeah.
I might be on the side of that certain coach.
Okay. Yeah, right, we'll have to get into that.
I saw his ranking, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, dive a little bit in depth with that. But before we do want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident and just weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH, the Maryland personal injury attorneys that are going to have your back. If you find yourself in an unfortunate situation, just like I have, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the costs of medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering. All that stuff can add up quickly and potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, but just give you that peace of mind. Save this number now. 855-MD-CRASH. That's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook so that way you guys can enter for all kinds of contests that they do for giveaways for gift cards. All right, Scott, it is time for some Flock Talk. Like we mentioned, Ravens win in a low-stress game over the Jaguars, 40-14 to move to 9-5 overall, still sitting in 8th spot, a spot out of the playoffs right now in the race.
First on the bubble. That's the key. First on the bubble. Remember that, people.
Right. But as we mentioned, I mean, like I said, low-stress game. This was probably, in my opinion, their most complete game of the season. I mean, I get it. It's the Jags. But anytime you hold an NFL team to 14 points, your defense did their job. And considering all the injuries that we've had in the secondary, all the people that didn't suit up and didn't play in this game, again, you held the Jags to 14 points. Your offense went out there and scored 40 points. And as you were talking about pre-show, the air attack, Greg Roman, Lamar Jackson, showed up big in this game.
It showed great. I was kind of actually getting a little bit worried about how much he was throwing. But Lamar in this game goes 17 for 22, 243 yards, 3 TDs. He had the 1 interception. It was early, questionable. Like it was an okay throw, but it was picked. Simple. It was tipped and picked. So it was. I can't blame him for the throw. It's just.
No, I could blame him for the throw. It was a bad throw. I mean, it was a good thought process. It was just a bad throw. It is what it is. He had one bad throw in this game. That's it, though. Yeah. I'm not going to harp on it, you know?
All right, fair enough. But here's the key to this whole thing. And I thought this was real interesting when I started looking at the numbers. 7 different receivers that he used. There were a total of 8 receivers used in the game.
Right.
He used 7 of them, or attempted to use 7 of them. So Marquise turned it on. Now, before we get into his numbers, I got to ask you guys, because we've been harping on it. We've been saying, like, what's up between these two? Did you see pregame?
Yeah, so it wasn't just this game. It was the past 2 games where you saw them walking in again together, like they're starting to, rekindle some things.
They were like joking as they were walking in, like they were that playing around, like goofiness, like seemed to come back out between the two of them this game. I know they came in together last time, but they seem to be way more interactive this time than just like walking in together.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that came from this game from Marquise is I think he's been a little bit in the dumps over himself. You know, I think he does. The big part of the reason that he said signing off of social media is because I think he takes a lot of that shit to heart. I think he really does listen to what other people say and what other people's opinions are. And listen, a lot of people out there aren't being very kind to Hollywood right now or Marquise, you know, and they haven't been, and rightfully so. He's had a lot of drops this year. He hasn't lived up to the expectations that we thought he would this year. So this game, as important as it was in the sense we needed it to win, but as low stress as it was a great game for him as far as confidence building.
Oh yeah.
Right? This was the kind of game that he needed to have so that way we can get him feeling good about himself, get Lamar feeling good about him, and that way if we do get our way into the playoffs, these guys are firing on all cylinders at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, it's 6 receptions, 98 yards. He was effective when he needed to be. He was making the catches. Still giving, again, constructive criticism. Still don't like how tentative he is after he has the ball. It's like he's looking for the out always. And I feel like Lamar is taking more chances and hits than, you know, his top wide receiver is. So I do still think that's it. But the other guy that comes out in this game, Andrews, 5 catches, 66 yards. He does have the 1 TD there. Just he continues to take himself to the next level.
Yeah, this is a guy that the Ravens announced their Pro Bowl selections, which we all know what the Pro Bowl is. It's a popularity contest. It's an absolute joke. Mark Andrews not on that list, didn't make it, and I 100% believe he should have. But yeah, this is a guy who the Ravens really need to start looking at locking up on a long-term extension. You got to have – I mean, he is obviously Lamar's number 1 target. He's the guy he's the most comfortable with. I've been talking about this for 2 years with Mark Andrews now. he is a backyard football kind of guy that fits Lamar's game.
Yeah.
If he's not open, he will, break script and try to find an open spot. And Lamar looks for that. And that's why they have such good chemistry. That's hard to find.
Yeah.
You see that sometimes from Hollywood, but most of the time you don't. That's a consistent thing from Mark Andrews. Drew, I know you're a big Mark Andrews fan. What do you think about him long term with the Ravens? Do you think he should be a guy that's a top priority for them to sign?
I'll guarantee he's a top priority to sign. Because I look at a guy like and Kelsey's head and shoulders above everybody when it comes to tight ends.
Right.
But I really think like Andrews could be a guy that's like him.
Yeah.
That, maybe in a couple of years, maybe Kelsey starts dipping a little bit. You have Andrews signed long term. You have all this cohesive staying with Lamar. And I think you could see him being the top tight end. And he has that ability.
Yeah.
I think he has the ability to be just as good as Kelsey.
I think it was Fox that put out, they do like their tiers, right? Where, like the different tiers at different positions. And that was one that there was debate from Ravens fans, but it was like, it was Kittle and Kelsey at the top, right? And then right below that, Andrews was like literally right in the middle of the pack. They're not ordered across the middle in any pattern, but he was that tier 2 guy. He was among, I think, 6 other guys that were like considered in that next level. And I think you're right. If he continues and he does that, he's gonna he at some point he's gonna be considered a top 1 or 2. Right now, I think he's, the way he's played this year, maybe not 3, but he has that ability like he did last year. And if he's firing, connecting, and healthy and playing, yeah, he's a top tier all the way.
And you keep him here long term, he's going to set all the Ravens receiving records for a tight end by a long shot. And that's saying something because, we had a great tight end here for many years in the name of Todd Heap. He's a very good tight end, and he was being thrown to by shit quarterbacks. So the stats that he put up is unbelievable with the quarterbacks that he had to play with. But when you look at the numbers he's put up, I saw this on Twitter the other day. Mark Andrews passed Torrey Smith for the most receiving touchdowns for a Ravens player in their first 3 seasons. Again, this is a tight end.
Didn't see that.
Yeah, pretty impressive. That's not just receiving touchdowns for a tight end. That's receiving touchdowns. Yeah. Wide receivers, tight ends, all of the above. So pretty impressive. And again, if you're going to build around Lamar Jackson, which is obviously going to be the plan, you've got to keep his security blanket, and that is what Mark Andrews is. But if we're talking wide receivers, we're talking receptions. I guess the big story of this game was the 2017 moment of the game. Right, the Dez Bryant catching his first touchdown in 3 years, throwing up the X. It's been a while, and it was a cool moment. I was never a huge Dez Bryant fan when he was in Dallas. I did want the Ravens to draft him just because you could see the talent. Right. But then when he went to Dallas and he was immature and he had all the head issues and all that stuff, I was like, God, the Ravens really dodged a bullet with him. But then you could just see the things that he put out on Twitter and all that stuff and everything that he went through these last 3 years trying to get back in the NFL. You could just see how much the game of football meant to him and how much he had matured over the years, that, this was a feel-good story to get him back in the NFL for one, and then for him to actually be here making an impact, scoring a touchdown in this game, and the embrace that you saw him and Harbaugh have on the sidelines and the kind of communication with it. You haven't seen that yet. The Ravens media team put out their Wired session, and they had it mic'd where you can hear him and Harbaugh talk together. It was a pretty emotional moment, I think, for not just Dez, I think for the entire team.
Yeah, they go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying, and that was a damn good play on both players' parts.
100%.
Yeah.
You were good. You know what I mean? Lamar was on the run. He threw it where it needed to be thrown, where either he's catching it or it's in the ground. It was a perfect spiral. Yep. He just slid under it, caught it, and that was it. It was a great play. And
this goes back to what I was just saying a minute ago. This is Dez Bryant breaking off a script and coming back to Lamar, coming back to the ball. Lamar seeing that and having the trust in him and throwing him the touchdown. This could lead to good things in the future. Again, it all it takes is that little bit of confidence builder. And the other side of the Dez Bryant story, if you talk about all the benefits that we're reaping from Dez Bryant himself, the other side of the coin is the motivation behind Miles Boykin's play
beat
and how
me
much
to
better
it.
he has stepped up over the last few weeks, man. He is a whole nother player than what he was at the beginning of this year.
You beat me to it, right? You talked about that. The Dez catch, the TD catch being, that wasn't just a win for him personally. That was a win for that locker room because they all talked about how much, how much of an impact he is in the locker room and how the wide receivers kind of it's like he walks in and they go, okay, what do you have for us today? Like that's kind of what you're hearing is that he has that much of an impact on these guys. And I think you're right. I think him coming in is exactly teaching Boykin to be the Dez that we all thought he was, right? Or think he can be. And that's where that catch, Lamar's on the move, he gets open in that position, and the fingertip catch that he makes back of the end zone, full extension, up in the air, and at an angle, another great play by both players to put it where nobody else can get it. He goes up, he gets it, and hauls it in. And the emotion that came out of him on that TD was also big. And you see that embrace. I'm sure they didn't show it, but I'm sure he went over and gave Dez a hug, or Dez gave him a hug. One of the two, because that's the type of wide receiver the Ravens see him being. We talked about the reason you bring in RG3 to help Lamar.
Mentor. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I think Dez, there's benefit. There's a little bit more benefit to Dez than there was to RG3 when it comes to on the field, but the off the field. That's why you gave Dez the shot. He's got knowledge. His football knowledge is through the roof.
100%. I 100% agree with you. And I wasn't going to bring this up yet. I was going to talk about this later, but obviously the other big story in this game, you mentioned RG3. Well, he wasn't available in this game. And I know I said, because talking to Ryan during the game, when the Ravens got up, I think they were up, was it 26-0 at halftime or 29-0 at halftime? It was something like that. I was like, second half, I want to see Tyler Huntley. I want to see him for the entire second half. Well, he didn't come out there. Lamar came out there, and they went back and forth. But eventually, you got to see Tyler Huntley, and you could just tell, like, the relationship, obviously, that him and Lamar have. They grew up together in Florida. They played against each other. Right. Actually, Tyler beat Lamar, in his, I think, high school days. So you could just see how excited Lamar was for Tyler to come out there. And I wanted to see what this kid had. And I'll tell you, in the little bit of sample size that we had, his mobility looked good. Yeah. His arm looked good. It's hard to judge somebody on such a small sample size, but I think the backup quarterback position of the future between Trace McSorley when he gets back and gets healthy and Tyler Huntley, having those two guys behind Lamar Jackson, I think we're good at the quarterback position for some time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you with Tyler and Trace, if you wind up carrying 3 next year and it's these 3 guys, they're interchangeable in that Taysom Hill, / backup role. They're interchangeable at that point. We've seen both good things out of both of them. But one of the things that we saw, how about that run by Tyler? Yeah. Like,
dude, he's quick.
You put it side by side. They did it live on TV. The run that Lamar had and the run that he had, same everything, looked the same, right? They did the same thing with the Ricard
What's funny
throw.
about that is Trace McSorley is not a slow guy.
No.
He's not. Like, he's a mobile quarterback, and he was successful with it at Penn State. But when he was in there, he looked slow because we're so spoiled by Lamar Jackson, right? Our standard and what our eyes see is here. And then when Trace came in, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy looks like he's molasses. He looks slow as hell. Tyler Huntley, on the other hand, when he took off and he committed to running the ball, you're right. To me, I'm not saying he is Lamar Jackson. He has that kind of speed, though.
But the shiftiness, too. Like, it was the move, the shake, the shimmy. Like, it wasn't quite the Lamar shimmy, but there was a shimmy there that got him a few extra yards. And just, they joked about it. It was like, is that Lamar? Like, and you see Lamar on that run. They show him on the side. He's jumping up and down. The funny thing is, I know, right? Like, the funny thing is, if you guys didn't pay attention throughout the week, they interviewed Lamar during press conferences, and they talked about Tyler, being his backup. And he's like, we were trying to stash him, and now, just in that it's a small sample size. We understand that. Small sample size, you see a lot of characteristics that are very similar to Lamar. and you could kind of sit there and go, this kid is a viable replacement in the exact same scheming almost. Just from my little sample, that's what I gathered. I love, to your point, to see a larger sample size.
Again, very small sample size. Drew, what was your impressions of Tyler in his first action?
When he dropped back on that play, I was like, I don't know what it was. I looked down or something. Next thing I know, he's like 5 yards past the line and still going. I'm like, what just happened? Like, fucking shot out of a cannon. Like, it was gone. And you're right. He looks a lot like if you, now granted, hopefully next, you're past the COVID stuff next year, but if you have a situation where he's out for a week, Lamar is, and it's nothing major, you're not skipping a beat, it looks like, with Huntley. But
right.
With RG3, you look like you're skipping a beat. Yeah. Even last year, you look like it was a completely different quarterbacks. Whereas at least, like, I like to see more out of the kid. I guess we'll find out. Hopefully next year you get a better off season with camps and preseason. Let him and Trace McSorley duel it out, because
battle it out. Hell yeah.
That was the thing this year. You were a little bit lucky that you had this situation happen where they changed the practice squad rules where you couldn't lose him.
But
because you may well have in any other year.
This is no disrespect to RG3 at all. Like, RG3's purpose here was to be a mentor and to show Lamar the ropes and to teach him from his mistakes, from RG3's mistakes. And I think he served his purpose here. But if you've just watched RG3 on the field and his play and you just judge him on that, it's time for RG3 to go. This is his last year of his contract, and I'm fine with that. I think Lamar's got a good grasp on how to run this offense. He's got a good grasp on when to get down and when to get out of bounds and all those things that were what caused RG3's career to go downhill. You don't see that out of Lamar. Lamar doesn't make dumb decisions when it comes to getting down or getting out of bounds. It's rare that you see Lamar take a bad hit or a hit that you're like, oh, Jesus, he should have got down on that. If you see him take a hit, it's something usually blindsided that he didn't see coming. He just has a good feel for that stuff.
Yeah, even more this year, you've noticed him a lot more. Maybe he took more hits last year and took it a little bit different. That's good to see.
And Joe says it, RG3, he gone. And that's, so I guess my question, since we're talking about this, I know what my thought is. I want to get your thoughts on this, but you're talking about having, let the two of them go at it between Tyler Huntley and Trace McSorley. Any value going back to carrying 3 QBs unless you can get something for one of them?
I don't think you got to worry about that yet, because, again, this is a small sample size of what we've seen, right? Okay. If somebody's actually going to carry him on one of them on their active roster and not put him on the practice squad, because that's what they'd have to do if they poach him from the practice squad. They'd have to carry him on the active roster. They would have to have the system around those quarterbacks, right? Yeah. And that's a big adjustment. That's the thing that, like, when people were talking about when we first drafted Lamar Jackson, like, how can you have Joe Flacco, who is a statue and a pocket quarterback, and then have this dynamic athlete behind him who's a scrambler, is a totally different system behind him. Yeah. Like, it's a totally different offense when these two quarterbacks come in. That doesn't work well, right? So it would have to be a team that would have the same type of system or similar system to us that they would see a Trace McSorley fitting in, or, a Tyler Huntley fitting in. There's not many teams out there that run that kind of system, or if they do, they've already got their quarterback of the future, like Kyler Murray, these kind of guys.
Right.
So I'm not worried about that. Even if, let's say, they do battle it out and the Ravens decide to carry 2 on the active roster and Trace McSorley goes on the practice squad or Tyler Huntley goes on the practice squad, I'm not personally worried about somebody poaching them. Drew, I could be wrong. Do you have that anxiety, or is that a fear of yours after now seeing both of these guys hit the field?
No, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And anything could change next year. I mean, it's so hard to really grasp the concept. Like I said, you don't know what camps are going to be like, what preseason games are going to be like. You would like to think with the directions we're going towards the virus that things would look a little bit normal, but you never know. But yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah. So speaking of normal, what was not normal in this game, and 2 of the most hilarious plays of the game, I'm not going to get to the big one yet. We'll start with the opening play of the game. Pat Ricard. I don't know if you guys saw this. I don't know if you were watching it at the very beginning of the game.
You're talking about backpack Ricard.
Yeah, backpack Ricard. Absolutely.
I actually
Dude.
missed the first play. I was so upset. I kept hearing about it. I had to go back and watch it after the game. I was like, man, I'm so stoked for this.
It was absolutely hilarious. Pat Ricard is like notorious for making some sort of impactful play on the very first drive, usually within the first play or two of the game, where he'll make this ridiculous pancake block or he'll do something just like out of the ordinary. Well, let me tell you, in this game, you got a linebacker in Miles Jack who jumps on Pat Ricard's back, and Ricard carries him 5 or 6 yards for a first down. It was unbelievable. I was laughing my ass off. And just goes to show how strong this dude is.
Miles Jack ain't a small guy either. He's
not tiny by any means. He's at least 230, 240.
Yeah, and the fact that he's also he's well respected as a defensive player, right?
He's their best defender.
Exactly. So this is a guy that he carries their best defender. That entire Jacksonville sideline went, oh shit.
Right. Actually, Miles Jack was a guy that I was really high on coming out of UCLA. He had some knee questions that people thought he had like a degenerative knee, and that's why he ended up falling down the draft board, ends up going to the Jaguars, and had a great career so far.
When his next contract comes up, I could see him getting out of Jacksonville unless things change and quick.
Right. Well, then the other hilarious play of the game had to have been the fumble recovery by Tyree Phillips. And he dude, when I saw him pick up the ball and start hitting stride, I was like, there's nobody that's going to bring this dude down. And I'm telling you, the first two guys, which one of them was Miles Jack,
bounced the ball.
Bounce off of him like a freaking pinball. It was absolutely hilarious. Now, he did end up taking a bad hit. I mean, he's a big guy. Big guys fall hard. Ended up, having a concussion, I think, mild concussion symptoms or whatever. But, man, how hilarious was that to see him scramble? After I was like frustrated, Lamar loses the ball, and then he just kind of comes out of the pile and takes off for 20, 25 yards.
I'll tell you what, though, he wasn't like it ain't no Lamar speed, but I think Good Morning Football on NFL Network clocked him at 13 miles an hour or something like that. That's a big boy rolling at 13 miles an hour. Yeah, no wonder guys are bouncing off of him.
Right, that was hilarious.
All right,
so go ahead.
I was just gonna say the offensive side of the ball we talked a lot about and the positives that came out of this game, but we held them to 14 points, and you said it earlier. That's big to hold any NFL team to 14 points. It's an impressive showing by the defense, no matter what. I don't care how bad the offense may be. If you hold somebody to 14 points, it's pretty good. When you hold them to less than that, that's even better. But I think a few things that kind of stood out in this game. So before we even get into the game, we had several guys missing, right?
Yeah.
On the defensive front, Calais Campbell was missing, which was literally a last, I think within 2 hours is when we actually found out that he was going to get scratched. There was rumors that he might, but he had said all week, I'm going to be good to go. Something happened. They scratched him. He was even on the field warming up when they made the call and said, hey, he's not going to go.
Right.
No Marcus Peters. No Jimmy Smith, still banged up. So these guys are really missing a lot. Well, let's look at the front five with Calais. Yannick stepped up. He got home in this game.
Yeah, this was the big one for Yannick. Obviously, this is the one he's probably had circled on his schedule since he arrived here in Baltimore, knowing that he was going to be taking on his former team. And, it didn't end well for him in Jacksonville. No. I mean, it was very public that he wanted out, and even the owner's son, I think, or maybe the GM, I can't remember. Somebody else got on.
It's the son, but his son's got a lot of involvement in the operations.
Right. Even he got on social media and was going back and forth with Yannick. It did not end pretty for all parties with this. And we've talked about it. He's looked good. He's gotten a lot of pressure, but hasn't been able to get home. And he was able to do that twice in this game, one of which ended up being a strip fumbled as well, strip sack fumble. So it was good to see him have this kind of game. Again, we talk about building confidence and hitting your stride at the right time. he's going to be an impact player. If we do get to the playoffs, we're going to need a pass rush. We're going to need him playing at his elite level, the Pro Bowl, all-pro type player that we expected to get out of him. And I think a game like this can energize him. And you even heard it again in the Ravens, what do you call it? The Wired session, the conversations that he had back and forth with Harbaugh. It meant a lot to him to have this game.
Yeah, I mean, he was happy to be out there and be playing this game and play as well as he was. And without Calais being out there, we thought that was going to be a big, major issue. But it doesn't, right? We talked about what Unique was able to do. He gets home with the 2 sacks, the strip fumble. Then you have Judon, Wolf, and Queen, who all each get a sack in this game. So that's 5 total sacks that we get on Gardner Minshew. And look, people give Gardner Minshew a lot of crap. Gardner Minshew isn't a horrible quarterback. He is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Should he be? Questionable, right? But he is. If he has a better line and maybe a few more weapons around him, what's he got? Chenault around him, right? It's really all he's got. So
he's got James Robinson, who's a very good running back, and that goes to show you how good this defense played. When you have a guy like James Robinson who's been shredding pretty much every defense out there, the Ravens held him in check. Outside of the receiving touchdown that he had, James Robinson was not a factor in this game. And again, not having Calais Campbell speaks volumes to be able to shut him down like that.
Yeah, that was real good to see.
Yeah, and for the most part, is the thing that I look at and say I'm okay with it was the other side, the backside of this. Cornerback play, they got beat a few times here and there. Marlon was not playing 100%. I swear. I still think whatever we saw 2 weeks ago with his arm is affecting him and plaguing him. But
yeah,
he's this week. Here's why I give him a pass. Right? You have Jimmy Smith out. We know. We talked about this last week. When Jimmy Smith is out, this defense is different, especially in the secondary.
Yeah. Yep.
Now you take out the other guy, the other guy that's our top tier cornerback. We know that we're playing with backups that are getting picked on a regular basis. So Marlon, I feel like you almost need Marlon to play like free safety where he's roaming around in that situation because he's got to be able to cover everybody. And that's kind of what they weren't having him play safety, but he wasn't sticking to the same guy all day. It was, okay, this guy's starting to beat us. We need to get Marlon on him. Nope, Chenault's beating us again. Get him on Chenault again. I
think there was a lot of pressure on Marlon in this game. Obviously, you got a couple cornerbacks out there that have only been with the team for a couple of weeks, and Williams and Harris, right? You don't have Peters. You don't have Jimmy Smith. So there was a lot of stuff that fell on his shoulders as far as communication goes and making sure these guys are lining up and covering the right guys. And Marlon has struggled over the last couple of weeks, especially on 50-50 balls. For whatever reason, it seems like he's not winning those battles. I understand, like, he's still one of the best, cornerbacks in the league. I'm not harping on him much. I'm just saying that it just seems to me one of the things that I've noticed is when he's going up on these 50-50 balls, he's getting beat on those on the regular over the last couple of weeks. But listen, for the Ravens to do what they did with the personnel that they had out there, as you said, usually when Jimmy Smith isn't out there, it's a huge impact on this defense, especially in the passing game. Just like we talk about with not having Brandon Williams in there and how that affects the running game. So for the Ravens to do what they did and again hold them to 14 points, hats off to Marlon Humphrey, hats off to the secondary. Man, it was a great game.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you look at him. That's why I give him Marlon a pass. Is he was doing what he could with what was on the field, so I let that go. The other thing that we got to touch on defense, Fred. I know that you were livid about this.
Yeah, man.
Jalen Ferguson. My brain hurts even just thinking about this. That's why I'm like, do I even bring this up to Fred? But I got to. That play. You have LJ Fort with the pick six, and I'm going Fort. And then I see the flag. I'm like, fuck, what the hell happened?
Yeah. I mean, it was blatantly obvious. He hits Minshew very late. He hits him high, hits him in the head. Regardless of the outcome with the LJ Fort pick and the touchdown and all that stuff that it negates, that just makes the situation worse. Just the fact that you're in a game like that, you're winning with no problems. There's not a rivalry with the Jaguars or anything like that. Like this I don't know. There's no excuse for that. That's Jalen Ferguson, I think, being a little immature and just not playing smart football. I mean, I know it happens. I'm not going to harp on him too much because it's just one play, but at the end of the day, it did end up overturning what would have been a pick six for LJ.
Real time when they immediately called it before I'd even seen the replay. I said in our chat, it's a BS roughing the passer. But then you go back and you watch when they pan away in the regular shot, he's just hitting him, and I'm thinking, okay, that's it. Like he hit him. It was a late hit. We've seen it before. We saw Judon get a penalty for that before, and then wound up getting ejected in the same game. So we've seen this, and I'm thinking, all right, whatever. But to your point, when you saw the replay, there was a deliberate, like, I'm gonna throw the shoulder at your head kind of movement. And as soon as I saw that, I kind of backpedaled a little bit, going, okay, maybe not so much BS. And you saw what I immediately loved, and what I've been liking to see over the past several weeks. And Drew, I'm curious to get your take on this. We've been seeing Harbaugh a lot more. There's a lot more conversations with players right after a play. Sometimes they just go off and he's like, he might chirp, but now it's face-to-face conversation. This isn't like, we're talking about it later. He's talking about it to them in the moment, in the situation. And you could see, like, I hate to say it, but the way the video was, it was like Ferguson was like, shit, coach, like, this just happened. I could see him making the excuses.
Right.
And I could see Harbaugh. You didn't see his face, but you could see him going, no, like, you don't do that. You don't do that. That doesn't happen. It can't happen.
And that was great to see because you're in the thick of this. You don't have a spot guaranteed. If this was 14-2 year and it happened this week, last year, you probably just look at him like, now you're fighting for anything can swing the momentum of any game at any time. You may have had it in hand, but that don't mean a damn thing in this league anymore.
No, and you have.
And I'm sorry, like coming from a guy like him, you haven't shown anything. I know you were a second-round pick. You weren't a first-round pick. Maybe you hold him to a lesser standard of a guy like Marlon Humphrey or Patrick Queen that were drafted in the first round. But, dude, you haven't proven anything.
Right.
You've had your chances.
Yeah.
Before they've added some pass rushers here and there, you've had your chances. If you ain't shown nothing.
Well, and a comment that just came.
I saw it right away. I knew it right away, and I said, "Pick up." Nope. He watched, and then when they replayed it, I was like, "That's exactly what I saw."
So, like Travis is chiming in, and he says he made a play. Stop hating. Look, I get that you're saying that he made a play, but look, we all recognize the rules didn't change overnight.
Wasn't a play. Wasn't a good play.
Right, but the rules haven't changed overnight. Right? This has been player safety, has been the way that you do things. You can't hit the quarterback in the head. That's not making a play. If he drops his shoulder and hits that shoulder into the QB in the zone, as they call it, into the strike zone, and hits him, and maybe drives to the ground and gets the roughing the passer penalty that way, I'm right with you, Travis. I'm defending him. I'm saying, look, I don't understand that whole rule. It's hard. That's what you do in football. It's what these guys have been doing for years. And over the past 2 years is when they've said the driving to the ground thing is gone.
Yeah.
If that would have been the case, that's fine. But he went up high. His shoulder was high. Yeah. If you're a big guy, if you're going high on a guy like Gardner Minshew. Simple as that.
You don't go high, and you damn sure don't go high on a quarterback, and you don't lead at the head. But it was a learning thing for him, and I think Harbaugh used it to teach and to learn, and hopefully Jalen won't make this mistake in the future.
Travis is killing me. He's saying he's joking.
Okay, all right, appreciate it.
You gotta recognize we get all that stuff in here, Travis. Come on, man.
All right, so as I said, after this win, Ravens sit at 9-5 right now. Again, still 8th in the playoff race. This win actually tied the Cowboys for the most wins by a franchise in its first 25 years of existence. I thought that was a kind of cool stat.
That's a pretty interesting stat. I mean, that's a historical franchise, right? To be mentioned in the same breath. Yeah.
Cowboys being America's team and all that, right? They are the gold star or the silver star in their case, whatever. They are, I guess the model franchise that everybody wants to be.
And they haven't done anything in the last 25 years.
They haven't. They haven't. Right. That's been the last time they were competitive.
The best thing that they gave us was Tony Romo on commentary. That's the best thing they gave us. So, Fred, let's kind of take a turn here because we're gonna look at Fred's playoff picture. We're gonna start that segment now. Fred's playoff picture.
Yeah.
So, Fred, what are you looking at? How are we getting into the play? I know we kind of mentioned at the beginning of the show that it's real. It's KC summed it up, said it's pretty simple. You know, the Ravens win and one team loses and we're in. Is it? Would you describe it as that simple?
The thought process behind it is that simple. Yes. The end goal of it, is it that simple? No. The Ravens, number one, yes, they need to win out.
By the way,
got to win these 2 games.
Well, I'm just putting this out there for the next like 2 or 3 minutes. Drew Brody says hi, Daddy. So apparently there's a kid watching. So if we need to watch language, let's watch it here.
Hey, Brody.
Hey, he cusses at me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, all
right. I get all my cuss words from him.
There we go.
But yeah, as I said, Ravens sitting at 9-5. They need to win out. This isn't they control their own destiny situation. If they win out, they're guaranteed to be in the playoffs. That's crazy to wrap your mind around first, right? Is that this team could finish 11-5 and not make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, how crazy is that? Especially when you got a
wild card.
Well,
right, and with an extra wild card team.
Then you got the flip side in the NFC where you have a team with a losing records in the playoffs.
That's exactly right. And that's part of the frustration with it. But it is what it is. These are the rules, right? You got to figure out a way to get in. So it is that simple. And yes, if the Ravens win both of their games, they need one of 3 teams to lose one game. One game. That's it. Yeah. Right. So out of those games, I think the easiest path, the Ravens have the Giants this coming week, and then they've got the Bengals to wrap up their season, which you would think those would be 2 easily winnable games. Bengals just absolutely embarrassed the Steelers on Monday Night Football yesterday, which was absolutely hilarious.
Steelers have gotten embarrassed the past 3 weeks.
They have. Mighty have fallen hard.
Yeah.
It's the worst 11-0 team of all time.
By the way, before we go any further with that, did y'all see the video of Juju before the game dancing?
Yeah.
That's dancing, and then he gets hit again, and it's perfect.
That's a weekly thing with him, dancing on the different or the logos and all that.
You might as well just put a target, tape a target to the back of your jersey, because that's exactly what you're doing.
And he paid for it because
he got hit. I watched little videos and clips on that for 10 minutes straight at work today, and I'm like, I laughed for 10 straight minutes. It was the best thing ever. To see this dude. And you know what? And I can't remember the quote, so I'm kind of pulling out my ass, and it's Crazy Man AB. But he had a quote about him, and at the end of that 2017 season, where he kind of shit on Juju, and we were like, oh, AB,
he's not as good as everybody thinks he is. Yeah.
It's starting to show a little bit.
Juju's a young dude. He's an immature dude. He's a social media, star or whatever. I just think that there's a time and a place for both of those things to exist, to be a great wide receiver and to be a social media star. They don't necessarily need to co-mingle and just be stupid like he is and disrespectful, in my opinion.
It takes a clown and stupid and disrespectful person to recognize another one.
Exactly.
That's true.
Just saying.
That's true. All right, so let's look at this scenario, right? I think, again, there's 3 different ways or 3 different teams that the Ravens can get into the playoffs with one loss and the Ravens winning both their games.
So the teams are what? It's the Dolphins, the Colts, and the Browns, right?
Dolphins, Colts, and Browns.
Okay.
Even if the Steelers lose out their games and they finish 11-5 and we finish 11-5, they have the tiebreaker over us. They get into the playoffs. So there's nothing that the Steelers can do as far as losing that benefits us in any kind of way.
Right.
So let's look at the Dolphins first, because I think if you just look at these 2 games that they have, you would think this would probably be the easiest path for the Ravens to get in, but not necessarily, because you've got the Dolphins going into Las Vegas to play against the Raiders, which for the first half of the year, the Raiders looked like a viable team for once and looked like they were actually going to be in the thick of things with the playoffs. They're still not completely out of it. I don't think they're completely eliminated, but
Raiders are a coin flip at this point.
Right.
You're trying to trump too many teams at that point,
Yeah.
You lose Derek Carr. He's got a growing issue. They do have Marcus Mariota there, which he shows flashes that he can be decent. Then he throws, a pick. He's just all over the place as far as consistency goes. So there's no guarantees that you're gonna lose to the Raiders there. The game that you would think that they'd have the greatest chance of losing would be their final week, and that's against the Bills, right? The Bills are playing great football.
Yeah.
But it's week 17. What will the Bills really have to play for at week 17? They're going to be the number 2 seed. They're not going to beat Kansas City for the number 1 seed. So week 17 could very easily be a rest them kind of week for the Bills. And at that point, it's a flip of the coin. You don't know what you're going to get out of that Buffalo team without Josh Allen out there, without Stephon Diggs out there, without their top starters at defense. So that's not a layup opportunity for the Dolphins to go in there and lose a game. So what you would think would be the easiest path, not necessarily.
I mean, I think the situation with the Bills, the question mark becomes it's really going to, I think it's going to come down to if the Chiefs lose this week.
Yeah.
They do technically still have a shot. Because if the Chiefs lose out, and I'm just throwing this out there, the Chiefs lose out, the Bills have the better conference record.
Yeah, but do you see the Chiefs losing out?
The Chiefs are playing Atlanta this week. That is not happening at all.
Right.
It's not. I get that. But
I get what you're saying. Go ahead. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Look, anything
mathematically could it happen? Yes.
Advocate.
No, I'm saying any given Sunday. Right? I'm saying any given Sunday. We've seen that before. We've seen the spoiler happen before.
Right.
So we've seen it happen. It could happen. I'm just giving the facts out there that there is a possibility the Bills could be playing. If they lose this week, if the Kansas City Chiefs lose this week, then maybe the Bills do play their starters in week 17, saying, hey, if we win and they lose, we depend on them to lose. But if they lose, we take the number 1 seed from them at that point. It's going to come down to this week and what happens.
I like where your head's at, Scott, and I hope that shit happens.
I'm not guaranteeing
I really do. Like, I hope that that's the scenario that happens, but let's just be realistic here. I don't see that happening with the Chiefs and the Falcons, but we'll see.
Yeah.
The next path would be the Colts, which the Colts have been up and down all year long.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've got the Steelers this week, which we all know Steelers have lost their last 3 games, and they just lost to the Bengals to a third-string quarterback in Finley, right? They're still putting out there a good defense. They've got a good offensive line. Phillip Rivers is still playing decent football. I don't know. I don't see the Steelers beating them. And then they've got the Jaguars week 17 in the final effort for the Jaguars to lock in Trevor Lawrence. So I don't see the Jaguars beating the Colts.
Well, they're probably throwing Mike Lennon back out there for week 17.
They'll bring Mark Brunell. They'll bring Mark Brunell out of retirement at 60 years old and throw him out there regardless. So I don't know. The Colts don't look like an easy path because the Steelers aren't playing good football. Now here's the thing. The Steelers and Mike Tomlin, if I know anything about Mike Tomlin's pissed off right now.
Yeah.
Like, he is not happy with his guys, right? And I'm sure he's digging in their ass this week. And this is a game that if they legitimately feel like they're going to make any noise at all in the playoffs, this is a tune-up game for them. They want to win this game. They're probably in the back of their minds like, well, we really don't want the Ravens in the playoffs. We don't want to see them. But at the end of the day, like, they need to get their shit together, right? They went 11-0. So that's my thinking, is that if we are going to get in, maybe it's this game. Maybe it's the Colts and Steelers that we get in. Because outside of that, you got the Browns, who are playing good football. They got the Jets, and then they got the Steelers.
I guess the question comes down to with the Steelers, how banged up are they, right? Are they playing banged up football, and that's why they're struggling against some of these teams, or are they underestimating teams? It could be.
I think it's ultimately exactly what Chase Young said after the Redskins game. The Ravens exposed some things against the Steelers, and the Redskins had the blueprint to beating them. They beat them, and everybody else has mimicked them. They play in man coverage, playing press coverage up against the line, not letting them get these quick passes off, because that's the only thing that's been working well for Roethlisberger in this offense, and now teams are honing in on that, and the Steelers don't know what to do.
Yeah, they're back. I mean, they're definitely backpedaling. They're getting beat. Even this defense is getting roughed up. T.J. Watt was pulled off after a rough shot yesterday. So it's there. That's why I asked if you think they're getting this team's, I don't want to say age or inexperience is kind of catching up to them, but it's what it kind of almost feels like.
Right.
And so that's why I think you have a point. I think there is something there. You know, the Dolphins it's at the Bills. So Nick Short asked if the Dolphins were at the Bills. They are in Buffalo there.
Both of their games are on the road in Las Vegas and in Buffalo,
which plays in Buffalo's favor because now you're taking Tua into the coldest climate, one of the coldest stadiums in the league. That's not in an area that's a dome outside of Chicago or Green Bay. So there's a plus side there. The Steelers, like you said, the Steelers game, that could be where we get it. If the Steelers come back with a vengeance, like you said, the Jags aren't going to lose that. But then you got to look at the Browns, right? The last shot. The Browns have been up and they've had downs. They've had more ups than downs, obviously. But they're going against the Jets. That's the game that I think should be a slam dunk for them. Although the Jets are coming off a win. They got their first win, right? They needed it. They wanted it. They get it. But the game that I think is going to be the game to watch as a potential for us to get in as kind of secondary game for me is the Browns Steelers.
And this is the game I was talking about. This is the game where I don't want to see the video of the Ravens sitting out on the field watching the Jumbotron as the Steelers and the Browns are finishing up, and the Steelers end up, losing that game or winning that game and knocking us out of the playoffs.
Well, no, you want the Steelers.
I don't want to be in a position of that. I want either the Dolphins to lose to the Bills in Week 17 or the Colts to lose to the Steelers. Lose to the Steelers this coming week.
Yeah, and
those are the two paths I would prefer.
To correct what I think you were trying to say, you want this. We don't want to have to be rooting for the Steelers to win.
Right.
In that last week. You said for them to lose. Or you said so we actually want the Steelers to win against the Browns because that's if we win out, that's another way that gets us in. If we somehow pull out 3 of these, then we're in no matter what at that point, as long as we win out on our own. So that we can't every game, it's game at a time at this point. So all right,
first things first. Regardless of all this, we want this team to lose and we want this team to win and all that bullshit. The Ravens got to win, right? Yeah. The Ravens got to handle their own. And I understand you look at the Giants and you look at the Bengals. You don't think that that's going to be, too tough of a matchup. They should handle those two teams the same way that they handled the Jaguars this week. And that would be great if they do. But, the Giants, you can't underestimate the defense that they have. They do have a good defense there in New York. Now, granted, they've got freaking Colt McCoy and Alfred Morris out there. I don't even know what year it is that these guys are still playing in the NFL. It's kind of crazy. But yeah,
I'm just gonna say this right now, and nobody needs to know the context. Shut up, Joe Carlozo. That's all I need to say.
But the Giants, listen, they're not an explosive offense. They haven't scored more than 20 points now in 4 straight games. 8 games this year that they've scored below 20 points. So they're not a high-powered offense by any means, even when they are fully healthy. So this should be a very winnable game for the Ravens. Another one that I think the Ravens will be kind of cautious on, not risking guys being out there as far as health goes. If they can jump out to an early lead like they did against Jacksonville, get up 2-3 scores in that first quarter, second quarter, this is where you might see some guys coming off the field just to save them and preserve them. At least I hope that that's what happens this coming week.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens have to put themselves in a position to win, we can't rely on somebody else to match us in the column, so to speak. We can't lose and then go, okay, we got to hope that these two teams both lose too. Win out and let somebody else just falter, and then you only have to worry about them.
I want to see more of Huntley in this game. I want to be in a position in the second half where we can pull Lamar, and I want to see Tyler Huntley out there. I agree. That's how I want this team to be.
One thing that I think does come into play, and it's one of those things that I think when we look at it, I know that Drew, you're super happy with this when I say this. The greatest news to come out of this week. Go ahead. What is it, Drew?
I feel bad that I like it.
Don't feel bad.
Healthy.
Don't you
scratch.
Don't you
Mark
decommit.
Ingram, healthy scratch. No, I am. It was really. He had a great season last year, but at some point you get to that point with running backs where they can hit a wall. And I'm not saying he's hit the wall yet, but when you got 2 other guys and can carry the load, and it's the stuff that we've been saying.
Yeah.
It felt like forever until like the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Was at some point pick. You can't be a three-headed monster. I don't think that works. It was nice to see. It was a good faith gesture towards Gus and Dobbins that, look, that guy's sitting and you guys are the ones that are, it's all right, it's your turn now. And another thing, you were talking about the a lot of the sound bites earlier, and I figured I would get a point to bring it up.
Yeah.
After his little fumble that he was lucky to fall on, we were recovered. When he was coming to the sidelines and Harbaugh told him, "You're good. I love your heart. You got it. It's your ticker. I know you're good for it. Shake it off. We got it back anyway." Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
word for word. But that was cool to see, because there's a lot of stuff back in we can think back with the history of Harbs where a guy got in his doghouse and
Never
all right,
got
well, now
out.
next thing you know, Mark Ingram starting this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a nice little snippet of video to see, and it makes me kind of.
So my question to both of you then, is Mark Ingram a healthy scratch again this week?
No, he'll be out there. I think. I don't know. I don't know why he was a healthy scratch this year or this week, unless they were just trying to keep as much cornerback depth as they could out there because they were so shorthanded to begin with. They wanted the extra body out there. I think that Mark Ingram, look, the Ravens are in a position that they have to win these games. And this is a crucial game. If Dobbins, God forbid, went down, or if Gus Edwards went down, you got to have another back. And I'm not saying that Ingram should be the number one back. I'm not saying he should be the number two back, but he should be out there and available, that if God forbid something like that does happen, he's still a productive back. And he's had a couple of weeks to rest up and get healthy now, that I think that he could be a good back to have in a playoff run. Remember last year, he was the bell cow, right? He was the one getting all the carries last year, and he ran out of gas when he had that ankle injury, and he just wasn't the same as we got closer to the playoffs. Well, this is the reverse of that. He got hurt a while ago. He got hurt mid-season, and he's had weeks and weeks and weeks to get healthy now, that hopefully he'll hit his stride and be available if we need him.
All right, Drew, I know you've been pushing JK, and he's been doing well. He's been the hot hand. Him and Gus, that combo, it's working. Do you think he should or will be a healthy scratch in Mark Ingram?
So here's my question to both of you, and in reply to that then. So do you think this kind of healthy scratch, and you might as well say he was a healthy scratch for the Cleveland game because he only got that first snap and that was it.
Right.
Do you think this is all to keep him healthy?
Could be.
Throw back in there ahead of those two, or do you really or is it another three-headed monster, or is it?
No, I don't think at any point
that's my worry now that you brought it up and it kind of put it in my head. Like I'm really hoping this ain't something where now all of a sudden you get
to the playoffs and he's your number one.
And now
again.
all of a sudden you're going to just throw out a guy who hasn't really played, even if he does play the next 2 weeks, it's still going to be some kind of limited capacity. I don't want to see that either.
Yeah, I think there's a point to both sides, right? Because I think Fred's right. I do think there is a thought process here to having him sit and really get healthy, truly get healthy and be ready that if we can make the playoff push. I think they recognize we don't need him to get there, but he's going to be valuable once you get there. So I think if you can work that, he's not going to get the snaps. Let me rephrase that. He better not get the snaps that Gus and JK are getting or should be getting. But if he does, I think we're going to run into that issue of, is he productive? Because the beginning of this year, even when he was healthy, he was not productive. Not like he was last year.
I don't see him coming back in and taking over the number one back role at all. I think he will be a situational back. He will be a guy that's good in short yardage situations, goal line situations, 3rd and 1 situations, those type of things. So I think he should still bring value in that. I do not see him coming back and taking carries away from JK and Gus. But to your point, what you were saying earlier, with how Harbaugh can usually put guys in the doghouse pretty quickly, especially when they have fumble issues. The clip that you're talking about, JK comes over to the sideline and says, "Thank you for trusting me."
Yeah.
And Harbaugh's response was, "I will always trust you because I love what you've got in here, which is your heart, your ticker," right?
Yeah.
That speaks volumes. If Harbs feels that strongly about JK, Listen, we're a couple of guys sitting in basements doing a podcast. If we see this shit, you better believe Harbs and everybody else sees the production and how valuable JK can be to this offense. I don't see that happening.
I think, and this kind of leads to what you were saying, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on that before we move on. But Alex Devon brings up the question of, would we need another corner taking that roster spot, right? Kind of what you were saying, but does that have implications beyond this week? Marcus Peters roughed up. Can he fully come back? Jimmy Smith, once he does get back, is he fully healthy? Does it hurt us to have this guy that we're not giving snaps? He's still on the sideline. He's just inactive, right? He's still on the sideline and there, but does it hurt us to have him there and not be utilizing him? I get what you're saying, but we're way thinner right now. We're seeing way more issues at the cornerback position than we are at running back.
What we're talking about, though, is the playoffs, right? I don't see Mark Ingram having much of an impact at all in this Giants game and the potential Bengals game. I don't see him having an impact in those games at all. So will he be active for those two games? I don't think so, because the team normally carries 3 active running backs, right? And Justice Hill does bring value on the special team side that Mark Ingram doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. So I see them being those 3 active running backs. And to Alex's point, if we need an extra corner or if we need an extra offensive lineman or whatever it is, I think there's more value in having those guys available than it is having Mark Ingram. And Mark Ingram's a veteran enough, and he's the type of mentality to put the team first, that he's not going to be the kind of guy to cause a rift or be upset or, try to lash out at the team for not having him available.
Right.
Mark Ingram is still, that's one of the many qualities that I love about Mark Ingram, is even though he wasn't an active, player in this game, he was a healthy scratch. He was still their number one cheerleader on their side.
He wasn't a me guy. He was a team guy.
Right. He is a team guy. And I think at this point, Mark Ingram is realistic with what his role is on this team. But I do think if the Ravens get to the playoffs, he can still have an impact in those short yardage situations, or having him available in case of an injury is important for this team.
So we'll round this out and then move right into social media shout out. Chuck says, at this point, I think Ingram has more value on the sideline than on the field. Playoffs could be different, but if we are still banged up in the secondary, that would be a tough choice to make. I'd rather not have to make it and have both. I agree with you. I'd rather have to make it in both, but it is what it is. We've got to figure out, and we've got to, have a plan in place. Time's only going to tell.
All right, guys, time for a social media shout out. Who have you been seeing in the chat room chatting it up?
There's been a ton of people chatting in the chat room here. I've tried to work a few of these in as we've been going.
I want to say it one more time. I know I said it in the beginning of the show. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody.
Yes.
I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to spend this with us during this Christmas week. It means a lot to us. Thank you for all the support that you guys have shown us over yet another year of doing this. Again, this isn't a business for us in any kind of way. We do this for the fun of it because we enjoy doing this, and it's because of you guys. All the guys that come out here every week and support us. Look, Drew was one of those guys, and now he's a part of the show. We appreciate each and every one of you. It means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to Scott.
Yes.
So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
And I don't know if you two have, Fred, I know you got shots that you can pour near you.
Yeah.
Drew, do you have a drink with you tonight? Are you drinking Broken Skull again?
Oh, I'm drinking Broken Skull again.
Nice.
Hey, Drew.
I've seen it.
I got it.
I've seen it. I love it. The Broken Skull. I got some Crown Royal here too.
All right.
Well, cheers to everybody out there. I know we're going to have a couple of more shows before the new year and whatnot. Cheers to everybody.
There you go.
Here's to a better 2021.
Oh my God,
leaving 2020 in the fucking past and let that be what it is. It'll be a bad meme at some point in our lives. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. I'll do the list here in just a second. All right, so we got G-Run, we got Chuck, we got James. Let's see here. Sorry, there's so many names, and you guys have been commenting so much. Kamal, Craig Zero, Steve, What's up, Steve? Steve, shout out to Steve. Steve's one of those guys that's been around for a while.
He's
as
an
well.
OG.
He is an OG. He is an OG Lamar fan too.
Yeah.
Back, he's from Louisville, so he knows
Oh,
Lamar.
he's the man then. He's
Yeah,
the
he
man.
knows Lamar better than any of us can even talk about him. Let's see. I think I saw. We know Joe Carlozo's out there chiming in.
Yep.
Joe Ship.
Travis, I know he chimed in a couple of times.
Yeah, Joe
Garnett,
Shipley.
another OG from back in the day.
Yeah.
Man, appreciate you, man. Happy holidays to you and your family.
And of course, he hasn't had his AB comment, even though we talked about AB for him. Nick Short's out there tonight.
Right.
Chiming
Appreciate
in left
you,
and
Nick.
right. Make sure you guys, we're going to continue to do these segments. Make sure you guys are commenting. Keep them coming. Even when we're not having the show, we love, I know a few guys have reached out to Fred and I.
Happy holidays, Alex.
With comments. Alex out there as well. I know a few guys have sent us comments and things like that. Send us, if you got a topic you want to talk about, like bring it up. We're always looking for ways to fill the show and fill our time. Sometimes it's a little more, especially after football season is over, active football season, it becomes a little bit harder for us.
Right.
But make sure you guys give us anything that you want to talk about. We'll try to bring it up as much as we can. We appreciate you guys, and we give you guys all the credit in the world. And before we jump into predictions, I got to bring up fantasy, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So
Right, we haven't talked about that yet.
Two things on fantasy. One, we have our predictions, and Drew, I don't know if you noticed in the outline this week, but your predictions are in the outline, my friend.
Where we at?
The predictions, the
Oh,
prime
did
time.
you? I didn't know. I did not look at
Look
that.
at that. I do the work, and you don't even give
I
me
love
credit.
it. I love it. And yeah, everyone else's name is capitalized except for Drew's. That makes sense.
I was doing it on my
here
phone.
we go.
Shut
I'm kidding. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Give an
Anyway.
inch, it takes a mile.
So-
Merry Christmas to us.
Drew gets in.
right.
Drew gets in for the last few weeks, but here's the deal. Fred and I have been talking, and I want to share this with everybody that's out there now. For next year, stay tuned for next year. I know it's a little ways away with pick'ems and stuff like that. We are going to do a Birdland BS Pick'em League. We got to figure
Straight
out
up picks. No, no spread or anything like that. Straight up picks. See how you guys stack up against us. Primarily me, because I've got the best record. You know how that is, but whatever.
I'm gonna address that today. You wait, buddy. You wait. But yeah, no. So make sure you guys stay tuned because we are gonna get that out there once we pick out where we're gonna do it at. We're gonna have a platform you guys can be able to go in, make your weekly picks, and get points for it and see how you stack up. And the winner will get a Birdland BS prize pack. Drew,
Yeah.
now you're a part of Birdland BS. You're disqualified.
Oh,
All right, man. So
Oh,
let's
man.
get into these prime time predictions, and we're gonna have to fly through these because we got a fuck ton of games this week for
Yeah,
whatever
we-
reason.
Well,
It's the holidays.
let's start with the game that we are involved in against the Giants.
Yeah.
Right. We're on the road this week. Giants 5-9, lost to the Browns 20-6. I still don't know how they only gave up 20 points to the Browns the way they've been playing recently, but they couldn't put up points themselves. They put up 6 points. Giants have just really struggled the past several games. Fred, you were talking about this kind of pre-show.
Several games or several seasons, because all of
Well,
the above is true.
Well, let's talk about scoring points in general, right? They've struggled the past few games.
Yeah, the Giants, not a very good football team. And again, like I said, they've got Colt McCoy and Alfred Morris marching out there where they're collecting retirement checks and somehow still playing in the league. I don't know how that happens, but Giants figured out a way. Apparently it's 2011. But I don't see this game being much of a challenge for the Ravens. Like I said, the Giants do have a good defensive team, so Lamar's going to have to play clean football. I do want to see more of JK. I want to see more of Gus. I want to make sure that we're grounded and pounding this football. Just get in and get out with a win. That's all that's important to me. I think the Ravens win this pretty handedly. I've got them winning 30-19.
Okay. You're not far off, by the way. Chuck Summers just chimed in and says 33-16 Ravens.
Okay. I like it, Chuck.
I look at this game. I'm not far off from what you got either. You gave the Giants more credit than I did. I think our secondary comes back. We're a little bit better situation here. I see the Ravens winning this again handedly, 33-13. Brian is didn't respond to our predictions.
Brian's
this week.
on holiday right now,
Yeah,
so
Brian-
he doesn't have his primetime picks.
He doesn't have
He
them
is
in here.
on vacation.
So I'll share these, and then
Too
Drew
far
will,
out of it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
James had 37-16. Ryan had 35-17. Very close spread. So Drew, where do you fall in this? Are you close with like all of us?
Yeah, I mean, Ravens are taking a 34-20. I think, and I think a lot of that is going to be late time scoring. Like, yeah, Jaguars got 14, but that was like a late 14. I think this is kind of a similar situation, especially if you're telling me that Daniel Jones isn't even playing. I don't know what his status is.
I don't think he's playing, but
he's playing,
still,
even if he
know,
is,
the jury's still out on him. Even, but at least Colt McCoy is like Alex Smith from the Niners light. You're a complete, just do not screw up.
Yeah.
And I just think, yeah, the defense is pretty good, but I just don't think the way that the Ravens offense is clicking right now, they get the 30 again. They're not giving up 30. So, it's not going to be close.
Colt McCoy's the only quarterback I've ever heard yell Omaha more than Peyton Manning as well. Christ.
That's the only reason why.
That's because he grew up watching Peyton Manning. That's why. We have a few people chiming in. Craig Zero says I don't know why he didn't give us a full prediction, or actually he did 36-7. He thinks it's going to be 21-0 at the half. Alex says 42-10. All in favor of the Ravens here. Thomas Morgan, first time I've seen you in here, buddy. Thomas says the Giants might be able to keep things close with their fake field goals and similar shenanigans.
That was so frustrating watching that game. I'm like, why are you not taking points? The Browns are not destroying you. The Browns are not blowing you out at this point. Take every freaking point you can get.
Yeah.
And they've got Graham Gano as their kicker, right? So he's not an absolute horrible kicker. Take the points.
Yeah.
That's the extra layer to our picks. If it's Freddie Kitchen making calls again,
yeah,
we're
there's the problem. Nail meat head. That was absolutely the problem. Freddie Kitchens.
Last one before we move on. Nick Short chimed in finally. Welcome to the party, Nick. Nick says 42-14 Baltimore.
I like it. All right, Friday night. Yes, that means we've got Friday night football. It's the holidays. It's Christmas. So 4:30 on Friday night. Vikings at the Saints. I think this is going to be a good game. I think this
is what we call a clean sweep.
Yeah, it's a clean sweep with all of us, but I do think that this is going to be a closer game than many probably think. I think it's going to come down to one possession. I really like Justin Jefferson, and it's not just because of the fantasy purposes, but I really think Justin Jefferson is going to be an elite receiver in this league. The numbers that he's put up this year already, unreal. He made a Pro Bowl in his first year as a rookie. Super impressive. Kirk Cousins. I mean, he somehow he'll throw for 450 yards and still lose a game. That's Kirk Cousins history. So I do think that this would be a close game. You know, the Saints obviously are reeling. They don't have Michael Thomas, but they do get Drew Brees back. So we'll see how that kind of goes. I think the Saints win this one 30-23.
Yeah, I'm not far off from you. I have it 30-21 here. I think you make some great points. I do think there's nothing that tells me the Saints can't win this game. I get the Vikings have some weapons, but you talk about a flip of the coin. That's the definition of that is Kirk Cousins. You don't know what you're going to get from him week to week, quarter to quarter, year to year. And he's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, which is the craziest thing in the world to be sitting here saying. But the guy is a flip of the coin. He's been a flip of a coin his whole career. And so I think it's no doubt for me. I think they could put some points on the board, but the Saints, even despite Michael Thomas, they have enough weapons. They can make it happen. James, Ryan, both on the same page. 31-27 for James, 35-20 for Ryan. So all really, really very similar spreads there, except for James has 27. So where are you at, Drew? Where do you stand here?
Saints 33-20. I think it's I think it's another one of those things where I think that Minnesota doesn't disappear, but that team has they looked outmatched against Kansas City, even though they kind of had their number, and it was like they still couldn't put them away. Right. I think that especially defensively, I think that they come out and we're like, look, we're not playing around. This is our only chance to kind of get back to that one seed if we can. and I don't, and let it be the Alvin Kamara show. Please let it be the Alvin Kamara show. Please, I think
you have him in fantasy.
Oh yes, I do. Please.
He's got him in like every other player in fantasy.
Hey,
his
we're not
roster
going to go into that again. All
right. Well, let's take a turn now. Let's look at, we got Saturday football again this week. We saw it last week. We have it again this week. We got 2 games this week. Three games this week. We've got the Bucs at the Lions for the Sunday 1:00 game. Yet another clean sweep. I'll just say we all have the Bucs here. I mean, do the Lions even have a shot in this game? Let's be real.
Matt Stafford, I'm pretty sure, is banged up, so I don't even know if he's playing this week.
He should not be playing. I feel like look, you guys are you'll probably be like you're gonna have a top 10 pick.
Right.
It's nothing. You're not. I mean, you're playing for pride.
You have nothing to gain.
Players play for play, but
right.
At this situation, when you got a guy like that just is hurt. I mean, he's tried his damnedest. Like, he wasn't at this game this week. Like, he tried his hardest, and no matter what he did, that defense couldn't do shit.
Hawkinson in that game, his tight end, helped him half the game, right? Yeah. So I mean, that was a good part of what he was doing. So that's one of the things that's holding them together. If you can hold down Hawkinson, I mean, you really don't have any other weapons. It's not a viable option for them. So
they've shut down Galladay.
Yeah,
I need DeAndre Swift to have a big game. DeAndre Swift,
all right,
against you, Scott. Big game in my flex spot.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to that in a minute. I know we started to talk about it, but so I've got this is a Bucs clean sweep for me, 27-16 for me. James has 34-21. Ryan has 28-20. Fred, what did you have here?
Bucs 31-21. I don't even think it's going to be that close, but yeah, Bucs 31-21, especially if Matt Stafford doesn't play. What do you got, Drew?
28-10. They're going to get lucky with him.
Yeah.
I don't, unless, I mean, because they've let, when it comes to injuries, they kind of let Stafford kind of dictate playing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if they sit him, it's not even going to, you don't have a chance to score probably any points.
No.
Any player that commits their entire career to the Detroit Lions should have a little clout and have a little say in whether they play or don't play.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Stafford is one of my dark horse, is one of those guys. I just like that guy. I don't know. I don't really know what it is, because I think like when he came to the league, he was one of those. Him and Bradford, one of those last big first round pick contracts.
Yeah.
And it was like he was hurt, and he kind of got that label, and then he proved he could be like an MVP level, and then it's just like once Megatron left, that was like it was like nothing they really put around him.
With Stafford though, I think what you're talking about is his grit. It's despite everything else that's failing around him, a coach, like all these things are failing, he's still trudging along. So it's that grit that he puts out there. All right, so let's look the other day game at 4:30. At the beginning of the year, I would have been saying this is a matchup to watch at the end of the year. I'm not so sure I'm saying that anymore. And I'm talking about the 49ers at the Cardinals. I look at this game, the 49ers are just so banged up. You have Mostert, who came back this week and then wind up going back on the IR. I know, because he's on my fucking fantasy team, and I'm dropping his ass this week because I have to against Fred. But for me, I think both teams are able to put up some points. They both have some issues. There are some issues with the Cardinals defense that have been kind of showing as of late. They were really on fire there for a while. Budda Baker almost seemed unstoppable on that defense. But there's some holes that have been found over the past few weeks. I have this being a potential one-score game. And what I mean by that, I got it being a touchdown with a 2-point conversion, 28-20 in favor of the Cardinals. Drew, who do you have here?
I am the lone wolf on this one. I got San Fran winning this thing 19-17.
That better not fucking happen.
I think it's a division game. I just think when it comes to, especially in that way, I mean, look, we thought the Rams were really good, and they lost the Jets, but they also lost both times to the Niners. So it's still a division game. They're banged up, but that defense is actually still pretty good.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could point out their deficiencies on offense, but there's a chance Kittle comes back. If you want to push him out there, that remains to be seen. But if he plays, that's a whole different ball game entirely. And I didn't even really factor him in my pick. I just think
Right.
it's a division game, and the Niners are one of those teams where you're not having a good year, but you still have a lot of pride.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not some of these teams like Atlanta where you have no pride, it seems like. So I'll be the lone wolf on this one.
All
All
right.
right. That better not happen for starters, because I need Kyler Murray to have an absolute monster game. If they
I'm
only have
fine with
17
Kyler Murray
points.
shit in the bed. I'm fine with him shit in the bed. Go right ahead.
I need Kyler Murray to have
down like 300 yards, 100 yards rushing.
I need him to have a monster game in this game.
Can he throw it to everybody but Hopkins, please?
But you talk about 49ers and their defense still being pretty good considering all the injuries that they've had. I think that speaks volumes, and I can't think of his name, but I think it speaks volumes for their defensive coordinator, and I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be of big interest in the offseason for other teams looking for head coaching jobs because of the job that he's done there in San Francisco. I think this is going to be a close game, no doubt. I do think Kyler Murray got back on course this week against the Eagles. Kyler hasn't looked the same since he's had his banged up shoulder. And I was worried going into this week's game of whether I was even going to start Kyler Murray in my fantasy playoff game because he hasn't played very well since his shoulder went down. And I said to myself, I was like, you know what? Fuck that. You're not picking anybody up. You're not putting another quarterback in. You ride or die with the players that got you there, Fred. Do the damn thing. Ride with the players that got you there. So I started Kyler. He had a damn good game, and he's going to repeat that this week, and he's going to ride. I'm going to ride him to a fantasy championship, the second in 3 years in Birdland BS. I think the Cardinals win this one 27-23.
I sure as hell hope you're fucking wrong. Please be wrong. But yeah, no. So James has this being a Cardinals win 21-17. Ryan has it 42-28. And James does bring up this is a home game for both teams.
Yeah.
Because the 49ers have been playing out of Arizona.
That's a great point.
The past several weeks. Not that really means anything because I still don't think they have fans there. But it's one of those things that like, what are you going to do? Like,
is somebody under there like tickling your feet, Drew? You're just giggling over nothing.
My wife.
Your wife's under
your. To grab a book, so I muted it and took the video off at first. So now I put it back on.
I'm glad you clarified that because he just asked you if somebody's underneath tickling your feet and you said your wife. We're sitting here going, "This is Drew. This is a PG-13 show here, buddy. We can't be getting next here."
When has it ever been PG or PG-13? Get out of here.
It's rated R for sure.
She was trying to distract me. I couldn't. And at first, like, you guys had your little back and forth so I could play it off, but then she kept going and you guys stopped talking. I was still laughing. So I can't camouflage it now.
There you go. All right. So the last Saturday night game, this is one of the games that we were talking about could play into the Ravens' favor if they win against the Giants. It's going to be the Dolphins at the Raiders, going out to Las Vegas in that new stadium out there. The Dolphins, for me, they're riding high right now. Tua's been playing well. They seem to be clicking in certain areas. So it's one of those things that they are going through. I think they can pull it out. For me, I look at this. I think they pull it out. Close game, 30-27 here in favor of the Dolphins. Fred, what do you got?
Yeah, this is the game that I was hoping that we'd have a full, healthy roster for the Raiders, so that way this is the spot where the Ravens would get into the playoffs, right? But, what's his name? Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Derek Carr. No, I couldn't think of his name. He's got a growing injury, so yes, Marcus Mariota is going to get the start. Again, Marcus Mariota's kind of been sporadic all over the place. He shows he's more mobile than I have ever given him credit for. If you watch that game this last week, he made a couple of really good runs. I think they need to, if they want to win this game, they need to stick to that. Let Mariota use his legs to his advantage because his throws, his accuracy are a little off. But I think the Dolphins are a good all-around football team. I think they've got a good defense.
Yeah.
I think Tua's starting to get more and more comfortable in this offense, and he's starting to get more and more comfortable with the NFL speed. I think the Dolphins do enough to win this game against Mariota. Dolphins win 28-24.
What do you got, Drew?
As an FYI, the second little bit of laughing, that was the kids.
Okay.
Ryan says you look creepy blowing kisses to unseen people.
Well, look, it's my kids, all right? All bets are off.
It would be creepier if you were in the middle and it made it look like you were blowing kisses to me. All right, that's where it would be creepy.
There you go. That's a good point. I tried to make sure I did it over so it didn't go anyway.
He's kissing the logo. That's all he's doing.
You know, Dolphins 24-14. I want the Dolphins to lose in the worst way, but I just don't. I think they're kind of like you said, Tua. At least he hasn't looked like he hasn't been a world beater. Like let's say like Jalen Hurts.
Right.
Like, Jalen Hurts is putting up fantasy football numbers.
They looked great last week.
Giving the only thing the only life Eagles have. Tua does enough to not mess up. He looks like he's very competent. He's like a lot of what I look like in a quarterback, where they don't look like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
If Justin Herbert doesn't look like a deer in the headlights. I know I'm getting off on a little tangent.
No,
but
that makes sense.
That's my fear. Like that's my fear thing is too. Like he hasn't been showing like he's timid while he's facing the Raiders defense that just is subpar. Like you just said, Marcus Mariota starting, unless somehow Marcus Mariota takes his legs and starts doing kind of what Lamar does in the passing game. Like that's kind of been the difference where Mariota, you would have thought like before Lamar came around, that would have been Mariota.
Right.
Yeah.
The game-changing, playmaking legs, but still throwing accurate. And he's never put it together.
Yeah.
So I just can't see him all of a sudden putting it together, and even with the playoff spot on the line for them, because I think it's few and far between because that defense isn't good enough. I think they'll keep it competitive enough. But yeah, 24-14 Dolphins.
All right, well,
Dolphins. The only way the Raiders win this game is if Josh Jacobs has an absolute monster game. That's the only way I see the Raiders winning this game. Josh Jacobs has a monster.
Another player I don't want to go off.
So James and Ryan are in disagreement with the three of us. The two of them both have the Raiders. They both have a very, very similar score. So James has it 27-23 in favor of the Raiders. Ryan has 28-24 in favor of the Raiders. I'm guessing they're anticipating Darren Waller coming out and having a good game, which by the way, while we're on this, because I brought up Waller, I did this on purpose. We didn't bring this up in the Ravens segment. It happened after our show last week. But Darren Waller gives a nice tribute, throwing up the 3-4 in respect to former Raven Lorenzo Talaferio, who passes away at the age of 28.
Yeah, that was crazy.
A lot of different rumors happening. The only thing that I've heard, official but unofficial, was his family came out and said it was a heart attack. There may have been some other things that were involved. We'll get the full story here, I'm sure, at some point down the road. But just sad to hear a guy like him. He had a little bit of an impact while he was here. But I thought it was nice that Darren Waller had a lot of respect for him and enough to throw up his number after a TD pass this past weekend. So credit Darren Waller there on that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so Sunday Night Football. This was probably, I would say, one of the more difficult games for me to decide on. Sunday Night Football, Titans going into Green Bay to face the Packers. Two teams that go about their ways of winning very differently.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Packers win through the air with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and whoever else wants to suit up at wide receiver for the Packers. The Titans, their formula of winning is running the ball through Derrick Henry and then, Ryan Tannehill just managing the game, having decent games, not doing anything to ruin it. So this one's going to be a tight game, I think. I think it's going to come down to who has the ball last. This might even be one of those, classic, Aaron Rodgers bombs, Hail Marys at the end of the game that only he can do, that somehow it's a completed pass in the end zone, and the Packers win this game. I think the Packers do enough. They win this game 35-32.
All right, Drew, what do you got?
I want to point out that you have it wrong in the show doc.
Do I?
Which had me really questioning myself because I thought you have it 38-10. I'm like, I would have given the Titans a little more credit than that. I didn't do that. I went back to my notes and okay.
All right, well, then that's my fault. That's my fault.
Damn, I didn't give the Titans any credit at all. It's 38-31 Packers. I'm with you. I think it's going to be one of those. I think it's one of those situations where you're watching the game. It's the team that has the ball last scores.
Yeah.
it's Derrick Henry season. This is his time of the year. He's been shining. And the Packers' run defense is shit.
Yeah.
And they haven't really done anything to fix it. They just kind of hope to outplay teams and get ahead, or because the pass offense is still pretty good.
Right.
So I think it's going to be one of those games where it's going to be one of those entertaining Sunday Night Football games. I can't wait. I can't wait.
I like it.
All right.
Chuck's got a pretty specific prediction here. He thinks the Titans are going to lose this game 27-35. Henry kept under 80 yards. Rodgers and Tannehill both throw for 350 plus in this game.
All right. He's
and I could see that happening.
Bold ass predictions here.
I could see that happening, Chuck. So,
all right.
I could see Henry putting up 200 yards.
So,
and that could very well happen too. That's exactly right.
James and Ryan both agree with you guys. Packers win this by basically a one-score game for both of them. They have James has 40-34. Ryan has 35-27. I'm the lone wolf here. I sat here and debated this game. Packers have clinched, right? They clinched the division. Now they're playing for the number one seed. So it starts becoming, okay, how much does that mean to them? Right. In a year that, let's be real, home field advantage, it plays on the type of field that you're playing on, but it doesn't play.
Yeah, we learned that with fucking Cleatgate. Right.
So you have all that. I think the Titans pull it out here, but it's in a squeaker. 28-24. I think Derrick Henry goes off in this game. I have him in fantasy.
Nope. I like the 80-yard prediction better.
I'm sure you do. But no, I think the Packers have had some issues at times, especially over the past few weeks, on the defensive side with the run game. And so I think Derrick Henry is arguably the best runner in the NFL. When he hits stride, when he has a good game and he's firing on all cylinders, he's unstoppable. And we've seen that time and time again out of him. I just don't know that the Packers that can do enough. The Titans, their defense is okay. I don't think they can stop Aaron to the point that they can shut him down below 20 points. But I think there's some mistakes that wind up happening here, and or some guys that sit, one of the two. And I think that's going to play into the Titans' favor. It's in Green Bay. I get that, but I just think this is a game the Titans have to win. This is a must-win game for them mentally. They've got to. If you beat the Packers, what kind of a statement is that about your team? Right. They're going into this with a little bit of bulletin board material.
And they're trying to win the division too.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Yeah,
not just make the dance. Like they have a division title at stake.
Right.
Yeah,
so
Colts are right there.
So I
last
think
game of the week, last primetime game of the week, Monday Night Football. You got the Bills going into New England to take on the Bill Belichicks. This is a game. Listen, Cam Newton looks like an absolute shell of himself as to whatever he was at one point. The fact that, the mighty have fallen. Like, this guy was a league MVP, was playing in the Super Bowl just a few years ago and was on the top of the world. Just an absolute dynamic quarterback, athlete. And he just does not look like the same person. The accuracy isn't there. The arm strength isn't there. The only thing he is he's still a good runner. But outside of that, Cam Newton is a shell of himself. The Bills, I think right now, man, they're playing their best football. I think Josh Allen is by far, in my opinion, one of the top candidates for league MVP right now. The numbers that he's putting up and the model of consistency that he's been this year. I like this Bills team. I think they're a good all-around team. I think the Bills win this one pretty handedly, 31-19.
Don't disagree with you. Right, I'm almost, right there with you with the score. I've got the Bills. They're clicking and firing on so many cylinders. Bills Mafia is so happy right now with the way that they're playing. Their fan base is behind them, even though they can't even be there for all of this stuff. So you look at this. I've got this being a Bills win again. 32-17. James has 27-13. Ryan has 35-20. We're all in a very similar score pattern here. Are you in that
Thomas
same
says
score?
Cam aged like a running back. That's a great.
That's a great comparison. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Drew, are you in the same category with us, or you got this a little bit different?
Yeah, it's not a chance in hell the Patriots win this game.
Okay. So how bad?
26-10 Bills.
26-10?
26-10 Bills. Yeah, I think like Bills. It's not like ho hum. I'm going to be the 4 seed. Like
Right.
they still have something to play, and they still look. They look too damn good to come. Like the Patriots are done. Thank God they're finally done.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I can't. I might go off on a tangent. I was so annoyed when it was like October and everyone was shitting on the league, critics wise, was like shit on the league. Like, how could you let the Patriots get Cam Newton? Blah 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 blah. I'm like, let the guy play 16 games first.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think this.
And look, I'm a big Cam Newton fan. I always was, but I was never in that boat watching him play. Even I'm like, you looked real fresh through October, and I don't know if it. I'm not. A lot of we like to bring up COVID as a talking point sometimes with players once you know that they're positives, and then you kind of see a little bit regression. I don't think that had anything to do with it. I don't think you were going to be able to throw, and it's gone. It's like RG3.
Yeah.
You can still run a little bit, but your arm's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And that defense, they had so many guys that were key that opted out, and they never got over it. And thank God, because screw the Patriots.
Yeah, they've had struggles.
What's crazy? I know we talked a little bit about this in the group text chat. How New York Jets would it be for them to like trade their second pick now because they're not getting Trevor Lawrence to in division to the fucking Patriots and allow the Patriots to somehow get another top tier quarterback and be great for the next 20 years, because that's what the fucking Jets do, because the Jets are just a shit organization. But that's the only way I see the Patriots bouncing back in a quick way is they got to get somebody in there that's a good signal call.
This is one of those things too that this is calling people out. Tampa Bay, look, they haven't been the greatest, but they've still been as competitive. So it just goes to show the argument that it was either Bill was going to do well without Brady or Brady was going to do well without Bill. Both teams have been now. Bill isn't making the playoffs. Brady still has a shot.
Playoffs?
Yeah, right? So it's one of those things that you look at and say, okay, Bill Belichick can't turn anything around, but people are forgetting about the fact that the Patriots weren't winners overnight. It did take them a year or two to get the talent to make sure that they were good. They were competitive and they were competing for divisions, but now, or in that time period with Brady, they were doing it on a regular basis. So there's arguments for both guys here. I think it's just interesting. So before we move on to our brew of the week, we mentioned it pre-prediction. This year, first year it's happened in 3 years, but this year, Fred, it is you and I going head to head for the championship in the Birdland
couldn't have
BS
scripted it any
League.
better when you got the two hosts going at each other in a 12-team fantasy league.
Yeah.
Pretty cool that happened. I mean, I hope you lose. Whatever.
Let's air out the dirty laundry. I mean, you did kind of rob a friend.
Stop bringing up the past, Scott.
That is one of my greatest
why are we
memories of all time.
Why are we bringing up the past?
I'm not even involved in the league. That's still one of my favorite memories of all time.
That's fine. Be involved with the past. Worry about that, and then I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to focus on this week and win this game so I can win my second title and have my name twice on that belt out of 3 years.
Oh, jeez. Well, the thing is you have a few guys that may just shit the bed this week. I'm just saying. I think they have quite a big chance of doing it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Fred and I go at it head to head this week in fantasy. We're going to see what happens. We've also been in talks about maybe trying to do next year maybe a daily fantasy for our fans, just to throw it out there and have a little bit of fun to involve more than just the 12 inclusive people that we have in our league. But it has been fun. Shout out to everybody in the league. You guys have been huge proponents of the show, big fans of the show. We appreciate it. Our Vanna White over
I was
here.
just about to say it. Shout out to Vanna White.
Shout out to Vanna White, who Drew says he will be our Vanna White. He is already committed.
Oh,
He is signed.
Craig Zero says Scott will win. Craig, no faith.
Yes, I
See how
appreciate
it is,
it,
my
Craig.
friend.
I appreciate
See.
it, buddy. But Drew has already inked the contract to be Vanna White for our draft next year.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm gonna wear a gown and everything.
All right.
I'll
If you're
do it.
wearing a gown,
I'll do
we're gonna have to do this thing
It's
live.
summertime. I'll do it.
We'll do it live on social media. That way, it's all over there. You'll never live it down.
It's fine. I've been unintentionally called in a dress here or two here and there.
On that note, let's go to the brew of the week.
What?
Go ahead, Fred. What is our brew of the week? You got it this week. I don't even have it. What's the brew of the week this week? I don't like this.
I didn't even get it. I didn't get a chance to run into Jerry this week to get a brew of the week directly from him. So I went in there and got something that I wanted, something that I had been craving for a while. They actually posted on their social media. For you guys that don't know out there, I'm a big cider beer fan. I've always been a cider beer fan. So they posted this new variety pack from Winridge Farms, and they've got this new Winridge cider, and it's a variety pack of all different flavors that is absolutely amazing. It's 6.0 APV. This one's probably my favorite. This is their apples and oranges flavor here. I don't know if you can see it. There we go.
Yeah,
apples and oranges. They've got obviously their original, which is just like a normal original apple cider. They've got a cranberry cider, which is really good. The one that I was kind of disappointed, if I'm being honest with you, I'm a big black cherry fan. I love black cherry gum. I love black cherry candy. I love anything black cherry flavored. So they had a black cherry cider that I was excited about. Kind of missing. It wasn't as strong as I would hope it would be in the flavor department, but definitely the cranberry, the apples and oranges were very good. So if you're a cider fan and you're looking for a little bit of a different change than just the normal apple cider flavor, go pick this up from Winridge Cider at Liquor Stop.
Okay.
Tell them Birdland BS sent you. Get your 10% off. And tell them happy holidays from all of us.
Yeah, right. Drew, I know you're drinking on you're sipping on the Broken Skull, right?
I love this Broken Skull. I'm not an IPA guy. Like I've said it enough.
We're
guys,
just gonna say you're welcome for that. So I've got
for some reason. Like I guess I don't know what I mean. Yeah, because I fully expected like, oh yeah, I'm the Stone Cold guy, the wrestling guy. I just drink it and then I did it. But no, I mean I really enjoy it.
Genuinely enjoyable.
It's really good.
Yeah. So
it's so enjoyable. Like there's a lot of IPAs because I was never really a big IPA fan. I don't mind getting one or two here and there and trying them, but not getting a whole 4 or 6 pack. Right. Then I feel like it's a waste of money or it sits in the fridge. But this one, like and like I said, I wasn't even looking for it, and it happened to be at Total Wine. So I was like, oh yeah, well, yep, let's get it because I love it. So yeah, it's good shit.
And that's the thing is it's hard to find it. No, Jerry was telling me, that
it looks like it's starting to kind of like
it's starting to
they grew the brand type of thing.
It's starting to kind of slowly work its way back in. Jerry was saying that when I talked to him before, so he was having a hard time getting it because every time he get it, we were buying it, so we were selling them out very quick. So make sure you go up to Liquor Stop, get whatever you want to drink on as far as beer. They've got a great selection up there. If you're looking for we have all the brews of the week that we put up. The Pulp Patriot, that's another one. The Brewdog Pulp Patriot. This is one of Fred's favorite milkshake IPAs.
Definitely my favorite milkshake IPA.
That one right there is why it's because it's so far out of the way for me. But I really am trying to I want to try that because you guys made it sound so good, and I've been looking to try to see it, but it seems like the only place that has it is Liquor Stop.
It's delicious. Whatever beers you want, whatever you're into, they have a good variety, good selection.
Oh,
you can also.
Speaking of that,
I was gonna say you can get yourself some Screwball and turn it the right way. You can get yourself some Screwball, but you can also get. If you're trying to look at funds, this Screwball's a little expensive. The Old Smoking Peanut Butter, Fred, you just tried this tonight. What do you think?
So for the same size bottle as a Screwball, and you guys all know if you've been following the show since the beginning when we first got the sponsorship with
that's how much we love Screwball. That's probably just a few weeks worth of time, if that, and that's once a week.
We have been huge advocates for Screwball since the day it hit the shelves, and it's been such a good thing. I love peanut butter, and I didn't know how it would react to peanut butter whiskey just because it's a flavored drink. I didn't know how it would be. And there's been a few other companies that have come out with peanut butter whiskeys that we've tried, and they've kind of had more of a butterscotch taste to them than they do a peanut butter taste. So I've just always resorted back to Screwball. Well, I go into Liquor Stop the other day, and they've got this there, Old Smoky, which they also do a bunch of different moonshines, which I like a lot of their moonshines. So they had this new peanut butter whiskey there. I'm like, I got to try it. Like everything I've had from Old Smoky has been good. It's literally $12 cheaper for the same size bottle than Screwball. I'm like, all right, it's worth it. If it's going to save me $12 a bottle, I'm going to try it. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to say it's better, but it's got a stronger peanut butter taste than Screwball does. So if you're really looking for something that has that good peanut butter flavor, this is the one to go with.
So would you say it's less harsh on the whiskey side of things, a little bit more towards that peanut butter flavor? Okay.
More on the sweeter side, more on the peanut butter side.
So maybe a good mixer, a good mixer one, or something if you want somebody that's maybe not a big fan of whiskey, but needs something that's a little flavor, has that little bit sweeter. This would probably be a good one for them, right?
For sure. Absolutely.
Right.
So if you're a peanut butter fan and you're thinking about trying it, but you can't spend the Screwball price, get this for Old Smoky. Again, $12 cheaper, a good selection.
So like Fred said, make sure you head to Liquor Stop. Let them know Birdland BS sent you. Get your 10% off. All right,
Scott, it's time for the rundown.
Yeah.
And we got a couple of interesting topics in this week's rundown, and we're going to start it with golf because everybody gets excited about golf. Everybody loves golf.
I do. I love it. But you know what makes it even better? When Tiger Woods is out there with his son.
When Tiger Woods is involved in anything, that's about where my extent of interest in golf lies. Like, if he is relevant and he's doing something of interest, I'll watch.
Before we get into like the details of the actual story that we want to tell, like, have you guys seen the videos where it's like in the comparison? Fred, I think you and I both saw it, and like we were immediately talking to each other about it. But Drew, I don't know if you saw it. It's the shot of Tiger and Charlie, and they're side by side. The mannerisms,
everything about it.
Oh my!
It even shocked me. Yeah,
God,
everything about it. So for those that
how
don't,
he takes his hat off, how he stands there, everything.
So everybody that for out there that doesn't know what happened, right? The PGA has a PNC challenge, which used to be the father and son challenge every year. They changed it to this PNC championship for sponsorship purposes this year. They do it annually, and it's a tournament with golf pros, PGA Tour members, and they're either son or their father. You know, if they are the son, then their father comes and plays with them. If they're the father, then their son comes and plays with them. So a lot of PGA Tour members enter this contest. Well, Tiger entered it this year with his son Charlie, who's 11 years old, mind you. He's 11 years old. And I think what sparked my interest on this was exactly what you're talking about, was a photo. I saw a photo on Twitter of them going at the driving range
in the purple shirts.
In their purple shirts. They looked identical. Their form looked identical. Their backswing looked identical. Like the way that they twirl the club at the end looked like that. It was unreal. And they even interviewed Tiger about it and talked about like how similar they are, and do they practice those things, and do they rehearse? And it's not. This is just like, to your point, Scott, it's just a genetic thing where these two just they mimic each other, father and son. Perfectly.
And this kid, not only is he mimicking like, the mannerisms, but the kid's got skill.
Yeah.
He's got his father's skill at 11 years old. This kid ripped off a 175-yard shot with a 5-wood.
Yeah.
I know some people that can't hit 200 yards with a driver.
Yeah.
Joe Carlos.
It was unreal. He was kind of laid up on the left side of the fairway there, and hit a absolute bomb. 175 yards to come within 4 feet of the hole.
Yeah.
To set up an eagle putt. So the way that the tournament works, just so you guys know, is both players tee off, and whoever's shot is the best is the one that they go from. And then from there,
I was say for golf fans, that's referred to as captain's choice. You know, you hit from wherever that your captain's is. So it's some people might think, oh, well, that's best ball. It's called captain's choice is what it's kind of referred to as.
Right. And then from there, they again take 2 shots, and it goes that way throughout the entire hole. Whoever the better ball is, whoever the better shot is, that's where they line up, and that's where they take their next shot. Well, again, Charlie on this hole, 175 yards with a 5-wood within 4 feet was definitely the best shot. He's even got the little fist bump, the little fist pump when he hits his putt in. I mean, it's unreal. It's uncanny how similar they look. It's kind of eerie in a way, but it was fun to see, man. It was cool to see him be a dad, because I remember that's how old I am. I remember Tiger when he first kind of came onto the scene. It was the opposite end of it, him and his father and his father not playing with him, but coaching him and teaching him and all of that. And now to see the other side of it, it's just crazy.
It's crazy to see. And this, like you said, this is a father-son tournament. I don't know if you saw the pictures the past few years. John Daly, we all know John Daly, right? And how flamboyant he is with the pants and everything. He's got his son out there. His son's got the flamboyant pants. Like they've coordinated. And his son looks like a very, very, very young version. I think his son's 16, 15 or 16. He looks.
Were they doing shots together?
Yeah, right. They might as well be. I mean, his son looks like I could see this being John Daly at 15 or 16. He just spitting image. But you were talking about with the fact that it could be if you're the son, it could be playing with your father. Right. That's actually who won the tournament.
Yeah, Justin Thomas ended up playing with his father, Mike, who they end up winning the tournament. Mike, he's a longtime golf pro in Kentucky and the only coach that Justin's ever had in his career. They played very well together. Actually, them and Tiger, I think, went into the final round tied. Going into the last round, and then eventually Justin and his father pulled away and ended up winning it. So it was kind of a fun thing. I mean, again, there wasn't any stress with this. The prize for them is not a whole lot. I think first place was $200,000. I think down to 7th, which is where Tiger finished, was like $47,000. So it's obviously a lot of money to you and I.
I was just
not
saying, Fred,
a ton of money to them.
Fred, you're my father, right? We're gonna go play golf next week, right?
That's fine. That's fine. We will never win a tournament, but yeah, that's fine. But no, it was cool to see. So if you are any bit of a golf fan, it would be cool for you to watch that tournament, or at least go out there and look at some of the clips of them playing together. It was a lot of fun.
Definitely cool. Well, let's kind of move on and switch gears here, because the big news this week, college BCS.
Yep.
All right, we get the rankings. We get the CFP rankings. College football playoffs. Number 1, Alabama, 11-0. Clemson, 10-1. I think those were the 2 slam dunks for everybody. Number 3, third ranking, Ohio State, 6-0. Didn't get to play a full season in the Big Ten. Notre Dame, 10-1 at number 4. The big thing that was somewhat controversy here, Texas A&M Aggies, they're 8-1 this year. They get left off this thing and play in the Orange Bowl versus the Tar Heels. What were your initial thoughts on this playoff ranking? Before, and I'm going to say, don't get into the news of the coach today yet. We're going to get there in a second.
I mean, you all know, anybody that follows me or follows the show, that I am an Ohio State fan. My father went to Columbus, or my father lived in Columbus, Ohio, so I grew up an Ohio State fan because he was an Ohio State fan. So I'm both an Ohio State and Maryland fan. I will always pull for Ohio State, but even me doesn't believe that at 6-0, Ohio State deserves to be in the BCS. This is kind of what we were talking about earlier in the year, like with ranking teams that are so far different in records and overall games played. It's a hard thing. So if you want to put them as the number 3 overall team in the top 25 rankings, that's fine. But when you're talking about the final 4 teams that are going to compete for a national championship, it's hard to put a team at 3rd. I get they were 6-0, they were undefeated, but they only played 6 games. When you've got teams out there that played 10, 11, 12 games that went undefeated. I mean, there was a couple other teams. Cincinnati, I think, was 10-0 or maybe even 11-0. I can't remember for sure. Now, granted, they didn't play anybody tough, and they had a couple of close games, but they ended up winning them. There are other teams. Obviously, Texas A&M, they were 8-1. That's the big one where a lot of teams thought that Texas A&M should have been in there. Notre Dame, questionable. They just got beat pretty badly by Clemson, but they also beat Clemson earlier on in the year. So that's the two losses there that you see for Clemson and Notre Dame. Now, granted, the loss when Clemson was playing, that was without Trevor, but the guy that I can't even remember his name, he's got a weird last name. He still threw for like 450 yards in that game, and they still lost.
It was a one-score game,
Right. It was a one-score game. I think it even went to overtime. But Notre Dame got blown out here this past week to Clemson. So there's definitely a lot of questionable decisions with this. But that's the BCS, right? Is even in a perfect world where every team plays all 11 games, there's always somebody on the outside that thinks that they deserve to be in, right? That happens every year. This year, it's just even more of a question because, again, you got a team in there that's 6-0 that played half the amount of games that another team did. Drew, I know you were kind of up in arms with this too. What did you think?
You all right there, Scott?
Looks like his cam fell.
Jesus.
Uh,
Well, I'm kind of waiting. I don't know if you want to wait to talk about the coach because I agree with Sweeney. It's a little bit petty because it looks like it.
Right.
As a coach of one of the teams that's in the top 4 going into the playoffs. But this is the Big Ten's fault. You made the decision that you weren't going to start on time like the ACC and the SEC and the Big 12.
Right.
Fine. I get it. And it's COVID, and it's always so many gray areas of how you can feel about what things should happen as a person or as a fan.
Right.
But you made the decision not to start in September like everybody else. And that's good. Then you probably should have never came back. Plain and simple. The only reason you came back is for bowl games, is for playoff games, is because you saw Ohio State having no goddamn chance of losing a game. But at the same time, you set the precedent that look at Maryland. Maryland showed some promise, and then because of themselves and other teams having issues like Michigan State, they didn't get to play Michigan State. You just said, you guys had COVID, you don't play the game, you don't make the game up. And which makes sense because you gave that's the parameters of starting later than everybody else. You set that crap. And to me, and I didn't get to talk to any of you guys about it yet, I think it's bullshit that you said if a team doesn't have a certain amount of games, they can't make the conference championship.
Right.
I know how Ohio State is. I get it. 6-0 is still 6-0, and you probably could have gone 11-0. You didn't play the game allotment. So why are you rewarding a team? And granted, it might not be their fault. I know it's so many gray areas. I'm talking all over the place. I get it.
But you're hitting my point exactly. You're hitting my point exactly.
I think it's funny that we're all on the same page. I figured we'd at least be torn, but when you look at everything, I think you're spot on with exactly everything you said with the way that everything played out. The other thing that I play into a factor that neither of you has mentioned is how fucking terrible is Penn State, a top team that we would be expecting to be in the top 10, right? How terrible has the Big Ten really been this year?
The Big Ten was absolute trash this year.
Right. Yeah, Carlos is talking in a second. Hold on.
I know.
No, it's 100% true. The Big Ten was trash this year.
Right. And so you look, and I said, hold off on Dabo, but Dabo Sweeney.
Dabo.
I call him.
That guy's got the most unique and awesome name ever. Let's get it right.
Dabo. It's Sweeney. That's his name, Sweeney. All right. Sweeney this was his vote because his poll ballot that he gave was Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Florida Gators, Georgia Bulldogs, Cincinnati Bearcats, Oklahoma Sooners, Iowa State Cyclones, Coastal Carolina, and then Ohio State. I think there's an argument to be made that he has a point. Look at how horrible the Big Ten was this year. I know these programs historically have done well. The Big Ten has been predominant in the NCAA over the past several years. But this year, whether it's COVID, whatever it may be, even if there's 8 games like they were supposed to play, I guess technically 9 games like they were supposed to play, the best they can do, the best they can get to is 9-0. And they want some of their wins are against teams and organizations, or not organizations, but schools that have historically been well, but just completely shit the bed this year. So strength of schedule, there should be a strength of schedule preseason and a strength of schedule, not postseason, but kind of postseason. Because if you look at that, their wins against Penn State lost to everybody.
And that's what I'm saying. The competition of the Big Ten was pretty trash this year. So yes, they're 6-0, and yes, it's feasible to say that they probably would have gone 10-0 or 11-0 if they'd have had a full season. But we don't know, and that's the problem. That's why I say, yes, it's fine if you want to put them in the AP and you want to put them as the number 3 team because that's where you would project them if they had a full season. Cool. But when it comes to the BCS, if you've got a game differential of 5, you should not even be considered.
No.
There should be a limit of a game differential of 3. And that's my opinion on it.
And I'll give that a later of opinion from me. He was pretty petty to label them as 11th. I get where he
he had him pretty low.
If it was 5 or 6 or 7, maybe people wouldn't say anything.
I guess that's
But here's my thing. The team he put as number 4, Texas A&M. The only team they lost to was Alabama. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean that's why I'm saying
how many years especially since this playoffs has started, how many years have we seen Alabama beat so and so, right? Both teams are in the number 4 seed. How in the hell isn't at Texas A&M the number 4? And look, I'll admit, a little bit of me is I just don't like Ohio State, but the biggest part of me is the Big Ten did this to themselves.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I've said it already, but it's just that's what it is to me, where if maybe I'm defending Sweeney a little bit, whereas, it looks a little bit petty. But at the same time, that's where I go. With his top 4, I get his thinking on the top 4. How many times have we seen where 2 SEC teams make it in a given year?
Right.
I mean, damn near 80% of the playoff games since there's been a playoff series, it's been 2 SEC teams. So to me, that's the same thing. I don't have. I guess I don't have anything else to say on it. But
to James's point, all this shit goes away if Ohio State plays Clemson and Ohio State kicks Clemson's ass at that point, because then they've proved their point. I know. I'm not saying that they will. I'm just saying they've proved their point. They've proved their value of being there. But I am 100%, and I'm a big Ohio State fan, and I'm a Big Ten fan, obviously. I 100% agree with you that I do not think Ohio State belongs in this top 4. I do think Texas A&M belongs in there. Their only loss, they had some big wins in this year. I mean, they beat Auburn, they beat Tennessee, they beat a couple of other good teams. And yes, their loss was to Alabama, the number one overall team in the country.
Well, and Craig Zero says they should fix this system in the offseason. Agree, but this is an argument that's been going on for as long as I can remember. How the hell do you fix it? You have so many different conferences, so many different, levels and the strength of schedules and this and that. And then you get situations like this where, let's say this was a full season and teams in the Big Ten still shits the bed like they did this year. I mean, how much validity do you then give Ohio State? Okay, you beat a team that other teams that aren't strong beat. So where do you rank them at that point? That's where I think Sweeney's got a point in A, number of games played, and B, the teams that they played against. The teams they played. If Penn State would have been, 5-2, 5-3, I think there's an argument. Penn State won 2 games this year?
I think they.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Nick Short sums it up.
Right.
Nick Short sums it up. College football is a waste of time this year. That's true.
It
I
is.
mean, it was
Yeah,
a
it is.
shit show of a season.
I got a question. Who you got winning it?
I think Alabama wins it. As much as I think Trevor Lawrence is the best college football player to come through probably in the last 5 to 10 years, and I think that he will be obviously the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, I still think Alabama is a much better overall football team. I think Alabama wins it.
I can't say I disagree. I think Trevor brings a lot to the table. The only thing that I kind of see playing a role here is Trevor going to Sweeney and going, don't fuck up my number 1. Something happens to him.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know he's the number 1 lock right now. So if I'm Dabo Sweeney or if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to him going, Coach, I ain't playing the next 2 games. Why take the chance if I'm him? Why?
I mean, look at guys like, granted, it's different situations because it's the playoff games, but like Zeke Elliott, nope, I'm going to be a top pick.
Zeke.
Christian McCaffrey, I'm going to be a top pick. Like all these guys are. Sometimes you see it and they might be like the 12th or 15th pick, but like you kind of got validity to it a little bit.
Alabama's littered with talent through and through. I'm talking top 2-3 rounds in the NFL draft talent all the way through the board, offensively and defensively. I just think they're the better overall team. But let's move on a little bit in more, unfortunately, sadder news. Former Steeler, former NFL great, Pro Football Hall of Famer, linebacker, defensive end, Kevin Green, passed away tragically at the age of 58 the other day.
Yeah.
They haven't released any details as to how he passed as of yet. But very tragic news. I mean, this is a guy that
Hall of Famer
listen
for
to
sure.
any of the what's that?
I said Hall of Famer for sure. Like, I mean, he was
Hall of Famer.
He was definitely, he was obviously inducted, but the guy's numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah, and if you listen to any of the former coaches, any former players talk about this guy, he was one of the more feared players. Good guy, great head, like on his shoulders, like just a good overall person, but was one of the most feared players. I know Coach Cower sung his praise on social media. It's sad. The guy's 58 years old, had a long life ahead of him still, and unfortunately, it was cut short.
Yeah.
I know he had a couple of teammates that have also passed that had some problems with CTE. I even think a couple of his teammates ended up committing suicide that they kind of tacked along to CTE issues. I hope that wasn't the case in this. We just don't know what it is, but man, played a long time, 15 years in the NFL, had 10 sacks in 10 of those 15 years. I mean, that just goes to show that the model of consistency that he was.
You imagine those numbers in this day?
Oh,
like
I know,
for 10 years to be able to have that in like the 2000s, it's crazy.
Yeah, 160 total, which has him number 3 on the all-time list behind Reggie White and the great Bruce Smith. Terrell Suggs, we all know him here. He sits 8th on the list, and we all, how highly we hold Terrell Suggs in regards. Just goes to show what kind of talent that he was back in his day.
Yeah, I mean, he overall. I mean, you talked about T Sizzle, but active players. Von Miller is a guy that's been in the league 9 years. He's got 106. Right, yeah. So he's right there, kind of along Von Miller. So it just gives you a normal, everyday comparison to what we're looking at and what he was. I mean, not only did he put up those numbers, but 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first team All Pro. Look, he was back in the late 80s. Early 90s into the mid to late 90s. That's where he, is cream of the crop. He played with the Rams. He played with the Steelers. I think he played with Carolina there for a little while. So this guy, there's a reason he's a Hall of Famer because he did what it took. He's one of the greatest linebackers of all time. And this is coming from somebody who feels that Ray was a complete player, but this was a guy that he got to the quarterback partially because he played linebacker, outside linebacker, and defensive end. Sometimes he would be classified as a defensive end, but he really drove that defensive end position to where it is today, if I'm being honest. Right?
Yeah.
The 10 sacks a year, that's the Kevin Green standard. Right? That's what he set to be kind of the standard. And he's a Steeler, but I respect him. I respect him as much as hell for that. So
yeah. Tragic news. Our thoughts and prayers with
By the way,
his family and friends.
By the way, and I'm the wrestling guy. He messed around with WCW for a couple of years
did.
there.
He did.
He picked it up like that, and he wasn't like deer in the headlights. Didn't I'm just here for a little paycheck, or I'm just a big wrestling fan. And I want to be able to be around Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. No, like he held his own. Like he was actually pretty damn good. Like where if he was like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to give this a try.
Right,
like a Goldberg or something. Who knows?
Yeah. You never know with some of these guys with their careers. So
yeah, sad news.
No rules, no boundaries, 2 topics, 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
All right, Scott, it's time for the 2-minute warning. Drew, you haven't given us these questions yet, so I have no idea what's coming. I'll start.
Well,
Scott,
ho, ho, ho. They're both Christmas related.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, Scott.
Merry Christmas. For some reason, I feel a little bit more merry this year. I don't know why.
It must be all that orange.
Yes, that. All right. I'll give credit where credit's due. This is from Ryan. Shout out.
All right.
Since it's elf season, who is your favorite NFL player under 6 foot? Your favorite, not the greatest.
Okay.
Go.
Scott?
It's going. I don't know what the hell's happening, but it's going.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm going to give you 2 names and 2 different positions, both some of my favorite players. Darren Sproles at the running back position, because I think he was just one of the more versatile players. And I think that he brings great value as a receiving back and as a running back. And he played a long time for a guy that was as little as he was. Doug Flutie. I've been around for a long time, and I got to watch him. Before the Ravens were here, he was in the CFL with the Calgary team. Stampeders, I think, is what they are. So I got to be a big Doug Flutie fan at a young age before the Ravens were here, and then got to see him have a good career up there in Buffalo. For a guy that they all say, oh, you can't throw over an offensive line when you're below 6 feet. Well, Doug Flutie, Flutie Flakes, it proved he could. Well, there you go, Scott. I've already said mine, so you got a whole minute to take it.
What's going on?
I got to go now. So I look at this. I think if I'm looking at that, I think the big guy for me that comes up Ravens-wise, Steve Smith, right? Steve Smith, I think he was 5'9", grit guy, not just here as a Raven, but as a Panther. He played well. He was able to put up good numbers everywhere he went, and just the dedication that he brought to the game, I think it's unmatched. I hate to relate it because he's Tom Brady guy, Wes Welker, right, and what he brought for them and what he was able to do. I think he helped that franchise and really helped Brady in a sense, become who he is. And the other guy, Mr. Drop It Before You Get in the End Zone himself, Deshaun Jackson, right? Short Jackson. Guy. He's been an impactful player. I'm not saying he's the greatest player, but he's been impactful. He's memorable because of the shit that he's done and how he's fucked up at times. But there's no doubt in saying that pretty much everywhere he's gone, Deshaun Jackson has had an impact.
Can't forget Ray Rice, too, man, the impact that he had here in Baltimore under 6 foot.
We'll keep with the Christmas theme.
All right.
What is your favorite Christmas movie of all time?
Oh, man. I like a lot of the classics because I grew up on my mom watching them 100 times over during the holiday season, right? So I like all the classics. Yeah. What did he say?
Because you're a classic.
Because I have a classic. Thanks for that. I appreciate that.
I'll catch on to this group.
When these movies came out, they weren't classics at the time. They were new releases. No, I liked a lot of those movies, but if I got to pick one, it's got to be Elf. I absolutely love Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell's one of those guys that people either love or they hate. There's no kind of in the middle with him. You either really like him or you don't. Elf is
If
absolutely
you don't
hilarious.
like him, fuck off.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
right. Exactly.
The buzzer came off, but we were a little behind. So
I
I'll
don't
go ahead.
think we've been well over 2 minutes.
Oh
at this
yeah,
point
yeah, no,
anyway.
agreed.
What
So
a shit show.
for me,
Die
hashtag,
Hard.
I have to say hashtag controversy alert. Die hard.
Controversy alert.
Die Hard. I'm a big Die Hard fan. People argue that it's not a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie to me. Anything that takes place during Christmas is considered a Christmas movie to me if it takes place during Christmas. That's the argument. If you want to make the argument that, and I'm being 100% honest, if you want to make the argument that that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, then technically neither is Home Alone, you motherfuckers. That's all I'm saying.
All right, let me ask you this question. This is a bonus question. This is a holiday question. This is me turning it around on YouTube. So, if you could get rid of one Christmas movie, never see it again, never have it air on TV again, what would it be?
Ooh.
Shit, I don't know.
One Christmas movie to
Get rid of it completely.
Hold on. I have an abundance here. Anything on the Hallmark Channel.
No.
Because they're all the same.
Exactly.
They're all those movies that nobody even knows the name of them or anything like that. I'm talking about if you could get that one movie that's on 24 hours a day and it's goddamn annoying that you can get rid of. What would
hold
it be?
on. Are you trying to get us to say A Christmas Story?
No, I'm not trying to coerce you into saying
You're not
Christmas
gonna
story.
make a Christmas
That's
story.
not how I am. That's
No,
not my style.
But you literally just set it up for that by saying the one movie that's on 24. It's the only movie that's on 24 hours. Are you kidding me?
Give it
I
to me.
used to watch. I swear to God, I'm not kidding. I used to watch my grandmother, and I'll date myself a little bit. A Christmas Story was on VHS at my grandmother's house. I would watch that shit in like July. So you'll never hear me ever disparaging Christmas. I get it. People can get tired of it once TNT made it more than 24 hours because it kind of starts the night before Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve. Yeah, you're never gonna get me disparaging that. I don't know the Christmas movie I would get rid of because I get them all because it's the season.
All right,
it's
so
amazing.
I'll give you one that may be a little bit more controversy. The original Grinch.
Okay.
The old like 70, 80 cartoon version of the Grinch. Because
Get out of here.
No,
Get out of
I
here.
say that because I think they did a great job with the real life, the quote unquote real life Grinch with Jim Carrey. I think he was the perfect casting for that. First
I
off,
love that movie.
right? But then the other version of it is the version that they did with Illumination, which is Universal's version of Pixar. That was done really well.
Cumberbatch, and we watched it last year, and I was like, "What the hell?" I just watched it with the kids the other day, and I was like, "No, this is pretty damn good."
I thought the same exact thing. First time I saw it, I was like, "This is stupid. Why are we remaking it again?" And I sat there and I watched it. It is Wyatt's favorite movie right now. My son, it's his favorite movie. He's 5 years old. He will turn that movie on before he turns anything else on. And I've grown to like it, ironically. And I've started looking at the old Grinch, going, it's not as good as these two.
Yeah.
If I didn't see the old cartoon Grinch one year,
I
wouldn't care.
I'll do you a solid. I got an answer finally.
Finally.
I could do without all the Frosty the Snowman. That shit
Okay.
I could do without Frosty. It's a random ass thing. If you want me to get rid of Christmas movies, because I'm not like a big Christmas buff like per se. Like our house isn't got like every damn room decorated Christmas. But
Right.
Christmas movies, like for me, like you could play them starting on December 1st, and they could be on my TV, and I probably wouldn't get tired of it because it helps you bring you into the season.
Right.
But
Right.
by far the greatest Christmas movie of all time is Die Hard. Sorry. Sorry.
If I'm going to
All
get
right.
rid of anything, it's all Tim Allen Christmas movies. I can't stand Tim Allen.
First of all,
Out, outside of Home
I don't know where
Improvement, do not like him. Cannot stand him. I don't like any of the movies.
I wish
love
I
all
was
the
in
classics,
control of
man. I'm
StreamYard
a big,
right now because I just turned Fred off at this point.
I love all the classics, man. Like the It's a Wonderful Life, the White Christmas stuff. Like I'm talking old movies. I love those old movies. Talk about getting yourself kind of, yeah. I do love Christmas Story. I love the Christmas Vacation and all that stuff. You can't get rid of those. Home Alone 3, that could go the fuck away. That was terrible. The second one was okay.
One and two,
Yeah, all the Home Alone after that was awful.
Kids home with the flu. Or shut the fuck up.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right.
I feel the rundown's
Scott.
gonna get pretty good here in a little bit.
Yeah. Right.
Sign us off, man.
All right, guys. We appreciate you tuning in on this holiday week here on Birdland BS. Make sure you guys check us out on our website, www.birdlandbs.com. While you're there, check out all of our episodes. Get yourself some Birdland BS gear. I'm normally wearing it. I'm so used to doing that I'm not wearing it this week. I don't know what to do, Fred. What do I do with myself? What do I do with my hands? What do I do with them?
Twisted up like a pretzel.
Yeah, right.
All due respect.
So make sure you guys check us out on our website, birdlandsports.com, Big Play Twitter page. Make sure you download the Big Play app. Also, make sure you check us out on all of our social media pages. If you're looking for us, it's super simple. We say it every freaking week. At Birdland BS. That's how you find us. If you can't spell it, I don't know what to tell you at this point. Go ahead, Fred. You going to spell it for him? So make sure you guys comment, like, subscribe on all the Facebook, YouTube platforms, everywhere, Periscope, Twitter, wherever you're at. Go check it out. The audio version of the podcast is also on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you may listen. Make sure you also leave us a comment, leave us a review so we can get bumped up there. What do you keep putting your finger up for?
Ryan entered the waiting room, so I'm telling him to hold on so he doesn't go anywhere.
Okay.
Now he's smiling like a dick.
All right. We'll see what happens. Stay tuned to the after hours, guys. For Drew, you're over here. For Drew, Fred, and myself, and all the other guys, we wish you happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We'll see you guys next week.
Ho.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
It's time for the after party.
It's last call for alcohol.
Look at that.
Oh, better late than ever.
Side note.
Why does Drew look like you took him out back and beat him?
I've had a fucking day. That's why.
You weren't here to help give him support, Ryan, so he had to foot a whole lot of the show.
I got to
himself.
talk a little more today because Ryan wasn't here.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
Side note, by the way, for the back end version of everything, the more people you add, the lower the stinger gets. Just as a side note.
Okay. Got it.
Lower what?
I swear, when it was in three, I didn't know where to sit.
Yeah, right.
That took me for
There
the
you
first
go,
like
Ryan.
5 minutes. Like, am I in the right position? I'm in the right
Are
position.
other people on the list?
All right, Ryan. So you're going to be put on the spot here.
Hi, Kaylee.
What if you get rid of one Christmas movie? What is the Christmas movie that you get? And Kaylee. Kaylee, you're both on the spotlight at this point. If you're going to get rid of a Christmas movie, what Christmas movie are you getting rid of? That you could never watch again, you could care less. What is it?
All of them.
Oh, you're just a autistic bah humbug.
Hallmark Channel Incorporated.
We weren't allowed to pick that.
That's what Scott said. You can't pick a channel with a bunch of nameless movies.
The Grinch.
The Grinch. That's also what Scott said.
Wait,
which one?
Which
though?
one?
Which one? All of them or
The real one.
the original?
With Jim Carrey?
Yeah, with Jim Carrey, I guess.
It's
That's not the
Oh.
original. Get out of here. The original is like 40 years prior to that.
Okay, the original's the worst.
Okay. All right. Ryan, you just say bah humbug, all of them.
Pretty much.
You
Okay.
are a Grinch.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right. So then, what's your favorite Christmas movie then?
Doesn't have one.
Polar Express.
All right, not a bad
Polar
one.
Express. What did you just watch it 5 minutes ago or something?
No.
Screw that
I
movie.
don't know what we it is the only Blu-ray we own.
All right, Kaylee.
Brody,
I don't know my favorite ones.
Brody loves that goddamn movie.
So
It's in
Craig
my
Zero
PlayStation.
says Craig Zero says the Nightmare Before Christmas. Is it watch on Christmas or Halloween?
You watch it all the goddamn time.
Yeah, Drew.
And there's a little girl named Kenley that says we're watching Nightmare Before
All
Christmas
right, I don't want to be on.
because I've been watching it since like October 10th.
Oh man,
That's great.
So my cheap iPhone setup, how bad is it?
It's fine. Just stop twisting it around. You keep going vertical
it
and
was good when
horizontal.
you started before
Jesus.
we clicked it into the after hours. It was
It's
was
so
really
shaky.
good.
I swear I think you have Parkinson's. I don't know what's going on.
It's been a day.
Oh, it's been a day.
That's right. You had a 60-year-old man beating on you. I forgot. It's been a rough day for you.
I didn't have a 60 man. Nobody beat me up.
So wait, Fred, why were you beating up on Ryan then?
Oh, that's a classic.
Never ends. It's Christmas, Scott, and you're going to be a jerk. Thanks.
All right.
Hey,
Why
look,
I decided
hey,
on to
So let's get back a little bit to that under 6 feet because I want to throw out one that no one said. I always enjoyed watching Maurice Jones-Drew play.
Yeah, I liked him a
I
lot.
think he was a little bit of the precursor to Ray Rice. I think they were pretty much kind of the same. And I had him in fantasy a couple of those early years back then, and that was one of my picks.
Who was yours, Raven? Or Raven?
Ryan.
Scott, Ryan, whoever.
probably Steve Smith.
Steve
Yeah,
Smith.
that was a good choice. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the Wes Walker one too because I think maybe we have a little bit of disdain for Walker because of watching him with New England and then Denver for a couple of years, but like, I really when he kind of almost, I would say reinvented, but like he kind of reinvent the slot position a little
He
bit.
perfected it.
Yeah.
He perfected. There you go. Like he perfected like the just fucking like look, this guy, he's gonna catch like 100 passes. I mean, he's gonna take a beating, but
Right.
fucking he's gonna do the job that like a lot of other people aren't gonna do, and he's gonna make our team win.
So
I don't know how you could say he perfected it when he probably had a dozen or more concussions through his career. You know.
I definitely worry about him when he gets your age.
Yeah. He's older than me, you jerk.
Craig,
Debatable.
James chimed in and said LT. Wasn't LT like he was like 6 foot?
No, LT was short too. LT
Was
was
he?
probably like 5'8", 5'9".
Okay.
Yeah, he was a little dude.
All right, fair enough.
5'11" and a half.
All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and get off here for the after hours. We appreciate you guys
Yep.
tuning in.
Merry
this
Christmas,
week.
everybody.
Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas, everybody.
We'll see you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
See ya.
All right, Ryan signed off, and we're off there.
Try to make talk shit about